You know, 1 week ago, we were sitting here talking about Monday Night Raw. It was the go-home edition of Raw to the Royal Rumble, and we had a face-to-face segment in the ring with Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. And it was an incredible segment. It was a great back and forth between the two of them. There were some people who thought maybe they were setting up for a potential WrestleMania match between the two of them. But it was a great segment last week that really got you hyped up for that Royal Rumble match on Saturday. And it feels like an eternity now as we look back on it when you think about what can happen in the span of a 1 week period. That was 7 days ago. And look at where we are now. Look at all that has happened in the last week in WWE. We had the announcement of the Netflix deal, right? Raw is moving to Netflix in 2025. Multi-billion-dollar deal. Big news for WWE to kick off the week. And then we find out that The Rock has joined the board of directors for TKO, and there he is on the New York Stock Exchange with all the TKO and WWE executives, including you-know-who. And it's this big, glorious day for WWE. And then everything goes to hell with the lawsuit dropping, the bombshell lawsuit involving Vince McMahon. Then Slim Jim announces they are pausing their sponsorship for WWE. They're pausing their sponsorship of the Royal Rumble. And then not long after, I mean, when I say not long, I mean, we're talking really a matter of hours is really what we're talking about here. Vince McMahon, somebody got to him, and Vince McMahon resigns as the executive chairman of World Wrestling Entertainment. All of his positions, all of his responsibilities, whatever it is that he was actually doing these days, supposedly now completely gone, completely divorced from the company. And then wouldn't you know it, Slim Jim unpauses their pause. And now they're back in the fold. And then on Saturday, we have Cody Rhodes winning the Men's Royal Rumble, becoming the first man in 25 plus years to go back-to-back in Royal Rumble wins. Bayley wins the Women's Royal Rumble match. There was a lot of controversy involving Triple H at the post-show press conference. And CM Punk did not make it out of the Royal Rumble unscathed. CM Punk got back in the ring for his first televised match in a WWE ring in a decade. And he got hurt. As we now find out today, earlier this afternoon, CM Punk is injured coming out of the Royal Rumble with a torn tricep. And I think to myself, back on Saturday as I watched Cody Rhodes celebrating his Royal Rumble win, I said, boy, did this company dodge a bullet or what? Because I don't believe for a second, I know some conspiracy theories out there that, well, maybe Punk was supposed to win the Rumble and he knew he got hurt and so they called an audible and that's why Cody won the Rumble. No, Cody Rhodes was going to win the Royal Rumble anyway. But it could have easily gone the other way. The two favorites coming in were Punk and Cody. Now imagine if CM Punk had won the Royal Rumble match on Saturday. Boy, that would have sucked. You would have had a completely useless Royal Rumble winner, and they would have had to completely just hit the reset button and come up with a plan B awfully quick to crown a new winner as far as who is going to go on to challenge for whatever championship of their choosing at WrestleMania. I don't know that they would be able to hold off until the Elimination Chamber to figure it out. So they avoided a lot of headaches by going with Cody as their pick to win the Rumble, as it turned out. But I said it after Tony Khan fired CM Punk. We all know what happened with him in AEW, and Tony Khan terminated him, and the rumors began that he might go back to WWE, which at first I didn't buy into. Not that I thought it was impossible that he would end up there one day, but I didn't think WWE was going to jump back into bed with him as quickly as they did. But I made the comment at the time, and I said one of the risks, you want to do a cost-benefit analysis, one of the risks of bringing CM Punk back to WWE after his last stint with AEW, he suffered two very serious injuries during that run. He broke his foot, which was more of a fluke thing than anything else, but nonetheless, you know, on a 44-year-old, 45-year-old body, he pulverized, that was his word, he pulverized the bones in his foot. And that was a very serious injury, one of the most serious injuries he's ever had in his entire career in wrestling. So he had the foot injury, and then, of course, he tore his tricep in the All Out match with Jon Moxley, and that was also a very serious injury. 2 significant injuries in less than 2 years. It's not good. That's not good at all. And the older you get, the more prone to injuries that you become. Like I said, the foot thing was a fluke, but then the triceps tear, and you ask yourself, it's one thing if you're a younger person who suffers injuries like that. When you suffer injuries at the age that CM Punk is at, you have to start asking questions about long-term viability. You have to start asking questions about, well, is this going to become a regular thing here? Is this guy injury prone? What's going on? Is his body breaking down on him? All these years of wrestling, he had a little MMA stint there for a while. Didn't go too well for him, right? He took a beating there. What's going on with CM Punk's health? Is he going to be able to last, or is this guy made of glass? It's a valid question. And that was a risk the WWE took when they signed him and paid him a lot of money to come back. Would they be able to keep him in the ring? If they invested in him, if they launched him to the WrestleMania main event right out of the gate, which it looked like they were going to do, boy, that's an awfully important position to put him in on day one. And if things don't go well, you're in a real bind. Well, guess what? They're in a real bind now, going into WrestleMania. And they knew that risk coming into it. Punk entered the Royal Rumble on Saturday. He entered at number 27. So it's not as if he was in the Rumble for 30, 40, 50 minutes. He came in the first 10. He came in at number 27. So he came in fairly late. He ended up spending about 20 minutes, I think, in the Rumble match. And in his very first televised match in 10 years, he goes in there. And it appears as if it happened on a Future Shock DDT at the hands of Drew McIntyre. He took the DDT and immediately grabbed his arm. Now, when you take a DDT, you don't sell the arm usually because you're not landing on your arm, you're landing on your head, you're landing on your face. It's a little strange when somebody grabs their arm. Now, I was in the building, I was at Tropicana Field, so from my vantage point, at first when I watched it live, I couldn't tell that there was something wrong with the man's arm. I did see him roll over to the corner. I did see him communicating at one point with at least one referee. But I didn't think anything of it because, again, I didn't have the view that I had. Now that I go back and watch it, you can clearly see that something was wrong after that move. The way he landed. It appears that's where the injury took place. And there's not a doubt in my mind that coming out of the Royal Rumble, CM Punk was going to go to Perth. He was going to go to the Elimination Chamber. He was going to win the Elimination Chamber if there was, in fact, a chamber match to determine a number one contender for the World Heavyweight title. And the main event of night one of WrestleMania was going to be CM Punk and Seth Rollins. The seeds were already planted going back to Chicago at Survivor Series, the night that he came back to the company. When Rollins, he was going nuts and he was cussing and people said, oh, this looks like a shoot. No. They were planting the seeds for what was going to be a WrestleMania match between the two of them. And as much of a blow as this is for CM Punk, it's also a big blow for Seth Rollins. Because I also made the comment that for as much as CM Punk needs Seth Rollins to go to WrestleMania, to get that WrestleMania main event that he never had, and to get himself a World Heavyweight Championship match, he needs Seth Rollins for that. But Seth Rollins needs CM Punk if he wants his WrestleMania main event. Because Seth Rollins doesn't look at the Money in the Bank cash-in from 2015. He doesn't look at that and say, that's my WrestleMania main event. No, he has said in interviews before, he wants to be in a legitimate WrestleMania main event. Going into the show, it is hyped and promoted as the last match on the show. He wants to be in that spot. I can't think of another person on that roster realistically this year that Seth Rollins would have gotten into the ring with that would have earned him a show-closing spot at WrestleMania other than CM Punk. So they both needed each other in many ways. Whatever their real feelings are about each other, and I don't doubt that Seth Rollins has ill feelings towards CM Punk. I don't know that he hates the guy's guts. I'm sure that's embellished for television. But it is kind of funny how in the end, the two of them really did need to rely on each other to get to where they needed to be or, wanted to be. And that's not going to happen now. That is not going to happen now. And I am not going to sit here and celebrate the man's injury, which I think is ridiculous. I guess I saw some people complaining. Apparently, there's some of that going around on social media. I haven't seen too much of it. I'm sure that it is happening because social media is a cesspool. I'm not here to celebrate anyone's, injury situation. Anybody gets hurt, I don't really understand what there is to celebrate about that. I think that's incredibly stupid. And I don't know why people would do that. And I'm not going to do that. To me, it looked like a situation where it was very noticeable to me. He was very gassed as the Rumble went on towards the end. And it got down to the final two with him and Cody. Because they did get some close-up shots of him, and he was breathing very heavily. You would think he had been in there for 30 or 40 minutes, and he really wasn't. And I don't know that that had anything to do with the arm injury, okay? The arm injury does not all of a sudden make him start breathing heavily like he's going to fucking pass out from lack of oxygen. So whatever it was, again, he hadn't been in the ring in a match like this with multiple people in a while. Whatever it was, I didn't think he looked that good to begin with. And that was before I even knew he was wrestling with a torn tricep, okay? Because he went on to wrestle for another another 10, 12 minutes with that injury? It was very similar to All Out. He injured his arm early in the match with Jon Moxley, but he finished the match. It's not like he waved it off, He probably made the injury worse. It's the same thing on Saturday at the Royal Rumble. He is supposed to be getting surgery imminently. I don't know if that means tomorrow. I don't know if that means this week or next week. Obviously, the sooner he gets surgery, the quicker he'll be able to begin rehab and physical therapy, and he'll be able to come back. But he is going to be getting surgery, a torn tricep, probably looking at somewhere in the 4 to 6 month range. WrestleMania is out of the question. SummerSlam might be possible, depending on how things go. We could be looking at a CM Punk SummerSlam return. We could be looking at a CM Punk return sometime in the fall. But he is going to be gone for a while. And I will borrow a phrase from The Undertaker, because I attended his One Dead Man show last night before I flew home this morning. And I will borrow a phrase that he used during his show. Father Time is undefeated. Even The Undertaker realizes that, which is why we will never see him back in the ring in a match ever again. He made that very clear. Father Time is undefeated. One tricep tear is bad enough. If you suffered one, if I suffered one, or if any other wrestler suffered one, even a young wrestler, it's a bad injury. Sure, it's a very painful injury. Gotta have surgery. It's months of rehab. It sucks. I mean, it sucks. One is bad enough. 2 tricep tears in less than 2 years is awful. And I don't know offhand if it's the same arm that he injured previously. It might be the same arm. I don't know. But in his case, 2 tricep tears in your mid-40s would probably have most people thinking, you know what, maybe I ought to find something else to do. Maybe this isn't for me anymore. Maybe my body is trying to send me a message here. Because even if it's a fluke thing, like, oh, I landed wrong or I slipped and fell, it's about how your body responds. People can slip and fall or land a certain way and not tear their tricep. But for it to happen twice in less than 2 years, it would lead a lot of people to start thinking about maybe I can't do this anymore. Here's the thing, injuries happen. It's just a fact of life. If you are a professional wrestler, you can get hurt doing almost anything. And injuries, look at the injury situation right now in WWE, okay? I mean, injuries happen. We see what happened here with CM Punk. Seth Rollins is out. Seth Rollins is out right now with a torn MCL and a torn meniscus. Kevin Owens wrestled Logan Paul at the Royal Rumble on Saturday with a broken foot. He fractured his foot in his U.S. title tournament match with Santos Escobar at the beginning of the month. So while on television he's wearing a cast on his hand pretending to have a broken hand, he actually had a broken foot, legit. Now he worked through it. I don't get the sense he's going to be taking time off, but I'm sure that doesn't feel too good. So he had a fractured foot. Randy Orton just came back not that long ago after having back surgery, and he was on the shelf for 18 months. He missed 1.5 years of his career. And then, of course, countless other injuries. You want to throw NXT in there. Cora Jade just tore her ACL. And, I mean, the list goes on. Sheamus has been out with an injury. He should be back any week now. Rey Mysterio's been out after a torn meniscus injury. But I do think with CM Punk, it is valid to start wondering if, maybe he just doesn't have enough left in the tank to be even part-time, let alone full-time. It's just the guy's been so snake-bitten. Is it just bad luck, or is it a product of age and inactivity? Because he has not been wrestling since last summer on a regular basis. He had that little run on Collision there for a couple of months where he was wrestling, not every week, but I think almost weekly, and doing some stuff with FTR and Ricky Starks. And so he seemed to get through that period okay, and of course, that led him into the match with Samoa Joe at Wembley Stadium. But I'm actually going to defend Punk as well, because I don't want this to just be like, oh, maybe Punk should just retire, and maybe he's done, he's old, and all this and that. Truth be told, if you look at the top of the WWE card right now, you have got a ton of 40-year-olds. And when I say 40, I'm talking even mid to late 40s. Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles, and Sheamus, and then you get Randy Orton. John Cena came back recently. Damian Priest. Damian Priest is 40 or 41. We got R-Truth on television every week. He's almost 50. Maybe he's over 50. I don't even know how old R-Truth is. R-Truth is timeless. But he's a lot older than he looks. So they have a lot of older performers that are on the roster right now. I am going to defend Punk in this way, because I don't think I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think he's totally washed. I will use as an example Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe is the current AEW World Heavyweight Champion. There was a period of time, not that long ago, only a few years ago, where Samoa Joe was snake-bitten much the way that CM Punk is snake-bitten now. He had a series of injuries. Now, maybe they weren't as serious as this. He wasn't tearing muscles left and right, but he was getting hurt. And then he suffered a very serious concussion that nearly ended his career. And they had him doing commentary and anything but getting in the ring, and that it looked like his career may well be over. And WWE never did anything meaningful with him, maybe in part because they didn't trust that his body would be able to hold up, right? He had wrestled that Ring of Honor style for so long, and he took a lot of hellacious bumps during his time in TNA. He came to WWE very late. WWE did not get Samoa Joe in his physical prime. And a lot of people wrote the guy off. He signed with AEW. Look at the run that Samoa Joe has been on. Samoa Joe has been able to stay healthy. I have not heard of him getting hurt, taking extended time off for injuries. He had that run as the Ring of Honor television champion. He's been TNT champion, and now look at him. He is the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, having, in my opinion, putting in the best work that I have seen from him in years, and maybe ever, if you want to factor in promos and just the whole overall total package that is Samoa Joe. I mean, his physical prime maybe has passed him by, but Samoa Joe is putting in some of the best work that I have seen out of him in a very long time. And this is a guy that if some people had their way, this guy would be sitting with a fucking headset on his head, and that would have been the end of him. Samoa Joe is basically the same age as CM Punk. I believe Punk may be a few months older than Samoa Joe. I think Joe may have been born in 79. I think Punk was born in late 78.
Samoa Bro.
Samoa Bro. Thank you, Chris. Perfect timing there. They're basically the same age. So for the people saying Punk's too old, he's aged out, he's 45, he can't go anymore, he's washed, I give you Samoa Joe as Exhibit A. I'm not going to sit here and tell you the guy is washed, but he's had a string of injuries that are going to follow him around, and unfortunately for him, he's not getting any younger. So if he were to come back and suffer another serious injury, then I might have a different perspective on things here. But I would not write him off just yet right away. Maybe he needs to do some DDP yoga. I don't know. Maybe I think he needs to possibly change his training regimen. Maybe he needs to stretch more. Or seriously, do DDP yoga. I don't know. He's got to change something, though, when he comes back, if he wants to try to prolong his career. I don't see how he can be a full-time performer for them. I don't know if the intent was for him to be full-time or not. I mean, if they were going to put the World Heavyweight title on him, possibly, I would sure as shit hope he was supposed to be full-time. Last thing we need is another part-time champion. But I don't see how he could be full-time. I think the best thing for him is when he's ready to come back, and he could very well be your 2025 Royal Rumble winner, depending on how things work out when he comes back. When he comes back, it's got to be more of a part-time schedule. You get him in there, you get some marquee matches out of him. You could do the match with Seth. Maybe you do Punk and Roman, right? You cherry pick some big names for him to work with. Even somebody like a Kevin Owens, Punk and Owens, that could be a lot of fun. I don't see how this guy's going to be able to go on the road, though, and do house shows and be on television every week and be getting in the ring every week. That is very clear to me that his body is not geared up for a schedule like that. But I do think there's a way to reintroduce him, and for his sake, hopefully he can get something out of this run other than just pain and disappointment, which is, I'm sure, what he is experiencing right now, because this is a guy who thought, I'm going to the main event of WrestleMania. That's a pretty cool spot to be in, and now he's not. And he's probably pissed off, and he's probably disappointed and depressed about it, as anybody would be. And I feel bad for him in that respect. I do. I have sympathy for him because it's a shitty situation. But now we turn to WWE, and what do they do now? Triple H has a few options, and this is one of the benefits of having what I would consider to be a deep bench. Some people gave me some pushback when I mentioned that earlier, but they really do. I mean, they have a stacked roster right now, even with the injuries and the people who are unavailable to them. They have a fairly deep bench of people. I mean, there are people even on the SmackDown side right now who have no obvious match for WrestleMania. What is AJ Styles going to be doing at WrestleMania? What is Kevin Owens going to be doing at WrestleMania? I mean, maybe they have a plan for them, but I can't see what it is. Right? There are certain people you can pretty much, okay, this guy's going to wrestle this guy. This woman's going to wrestle this woman. I mean, again, Styles and Owens are just two examples. If they needed to take somebody like that, a veteran who doesn't have anything going on at the moment, heading into the biggest show of the year, you could even dip into the bench on the other side if you had to. But you have other people on Raw, whether it be a Gunther or a Drew McIntyre or a Sami Zayn, who you can rely upon. If one person goes down, they have somebody they can slot in there. So even with the injuries, Triple H has options. Don't forget Damian Priest, right, and his Money in the Bank briefcase. I'm going to get into what those options are, what I would do. But just to sum it up, I wouldn't call it a total disaster, but it certainly makes the WrestleMania card a lot less exciting because people were looking forward to seeing Rollins and Punk. People were looking forward, I think, maybe even more so to see Rollins and Punk from a promo perspective, maybe even more than the actual match. We probably would have gotten a lot of compelling promo work between those two. Now we're not going to get it, and that sucks. But now they have to pivot and go to plan B. We had Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins in the ring tonight on the show. Why were they in the ring together? Because Seth Rollins made the pitch to Cody for why Cody should pick him as his opponent at WrestleMania. Now, why Seth Rollins would do this? Because Seth Rollins has already been in the ring with Cody Rhodes on 3 occasions. He has lost all 3 times. He is 0 for 3. It sounds to me like he's a glutton for punishment, but he made his plea. They're trying very hard to convince you that Cody Rhodes is going to pick anybody but Roman Reigns. You and I know he's picking Roman Reigns, but they have to try to make it interesting, so this is their way of doing that. And we had also Rhea Ripley made an appearance on the show, got put down by Nia Jax. What that could mean for the Elimination Chamber and for WrestleMania, we'll talk about that. And we got another Gunther Intercontinental title defense. He will now move on to 600 days later this week as the Intercontinental Champion. There was some good stuff on the show tonight, wrestling-wise. Yeah, they moved some stories along, but a lot of very, there were dull stretches where it just dragged on for a while. There was some filler on the show. some very short matches they threw in there just to kind of throw people on the show and then quickly move on to the next thing. I wouldn't call this a terribly exciting show, but I enjoyed more than what I did not like on this show. Again, I wouldn't call the post-Royal Rumble episode of Raw something that you need to go out of your way to watch. But nonetheless, we'll talk about all of it. This is your Monday Night Raw review. It is January 29th, 2024. I am the Solomonster. I am back home from Florida. I am back in my normal quarters here. Got in this afternoon. Now, I was planning as part of the stream tonight on doing a little Undertaker One Dead Man review for all of you. But in light of the Punk news, which we have talked about and will be talking about, I'll push that off for another time. I'll probably just record a separate review. I did go to that show last night. I thought it was fun, and there were some interesting things that The Undertaker had to say. So I will share that with all of you. Keep your eye out this week. At some point, I'll get that recorded. Like and subscribe. I want to say thank you to everybody who helped me get to 77,000 subscribers. I noticed it happened earlier tonight before I went live. So actually before Raw. So we are officially at 77K on the channel. Thank you. Now we march to 78. 400 likes is the minimum goal for Be the Booker, so hit that like button. Super chats are open. And yes, in case you couldn't already tell, behind me, it is that time of year. The WrestleMania sign has returned. And so at some point you might see me pointing at the sign. I will be pointing at the sign. CM Punk may not be pointing at the sign, but I will be pointing at the sign. See? Right there. There it is. Boom. Just like last year, we got the WrestleMania sign. You wanted it? Ask and you shall receive. Raw opened with a commercial-free first hour and some shots of some of the talent entering the building earlier today. They put their times of arrival on the screen. This is one of the new production elements that have been added to the show now in the post-Kevin Dunn era. They're trying to incorporate more sports-like elements into the show. It's a minor thing, but it's one of those things that I appreciate. You know, when they try new production techniques on the show, they try to add something different just to shake up the usual format. It's a welcome change. So hopefully they'll keep doing that sort of thing. After a Rumble recap, Pat McAfee was out to ringside. Pat McAfee was out to ringside on Saturday to join Corey Graves and Michael Cole for the Royal Rumble. He came out here on Raw and sat down next to Michael Cole, and I noticed very quickly there's no Wade Barrett on commentary. And the reason for that, we were told, is that Wade Barrett is no longer on Monday Night Raw. The new Monday Night Raw announced team going forward as of tonight, effective immediately, is Michael Cole and Pat McAfee. Now, I enjoyed Michael Cole and Pat McAfee on SmackDown, but I certainly hope
Samoa Bro.
that Wade Barrett, is going to find his way over to SmackDown. Because moving him back to NXT, which is where he used to be, or moving him off all the shows completely, which sounds ridiculous to me, would be very, very, very stupid. Wade Barrett and Michael Cole had a good thing going. They had good chemistry together. I enjoyed the way they played off of each other. It sucks they're no longer going to be together. My guess is that we'll find out that Wade Barrett, Corey Graves, and possibly Vic Joseph are going to be the new trio on SmackDown on Friday nights. And maybe not even Vic. Maybe they're going to try Corey Graves out as a play-by-play commentator. It's possible. Maybe the team is Corey and Wade. But Corey, Wade, and Vic is something that I could see. Whatever the new team is going to be, we won't have to wait very long. We'll find out who they are on Friday night, but that will be your new Raw announce team going forward. CM Punk was out to the ring first, and he walked out with his arm in a sling, confirming the reports that first dropped earlier in the day that CM Punk suffered a pretty significant injury. Yeah, PW Insider reported it, Fightful later confirmed it. Meltzer was actually the first one to report the injury news. Of course, everybody tweeting me going, "Oh, I'll wait until I get confirmation from another source. I can't believe anything Dave says." Now that the news has been confirmed, they're very quiet. Poor Dave won't get credit when he's actually right about something, but I do want to point out, I believe he was the first one to say something. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but I believe Dave was the first. So Punk comes out, and you could tell from the look on his face that the news was not good. He gazed up at the WrestleMania sign. What could have been? He looks up at the WrestleMania sign. There it is. And he said that he came real close on Saturday night. He felt like he had it in the palm of his hand. And he's not mad at anybody. He said, actually, he likes to stand in the ring right now and congratulate Cody Rhodes. Punk said it's not always about what you deserve, it's about what you've earned. He said Cody busted his ass and he earned it. He said he hopes he goes to WrestleMania in Philadelphia and he finishes his story. Going back-to-back in the Rumble is a hell of an accomplishment. He likened it to the Tampa Bay Lightning winning back-to-back Stanley Cups. He came close, but he said close doesn't count in this business, and he's never really believed in luck, right? I believe the old expression he used to use is that luck is for losers. But he feels a little bit unlucky. He says during the Rumble, he tore his right tricep. He said he wanted to tape it up and get through the Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania, but it is not in the cards for me. He said that maybe his dream of main eventing WrestleMania just is not going to happen. Punk said he didn't want anyone to feel bad for him. He brought up a friend of his named Chad Gilbert, who is currently battling cancer, and Punk said he sits with him while he gets his chemotherapy treatment, and Chad is always in a good mood. Says Chad never complains. And then he got very emotional as he was telling the story, and the tears started welling up in his eyes. And he said what he's dealing with by comparison is just a flesh wound. Said he is not the best in the world because he always wins. He says, I've lost more than I've won. Pointed out his not-so-great record in the UFC. He said he fought in the UFC because it was his dream and it scared the crap out of him. Scared him as much as coming back after 10 years to a place he never wanted to leave. The dream of WrestleMania will continue to haunt him, but best in the world was a moniker that belonged to those who fight cancer and people who fight fires. He promised to keep going until the wheels fell off. Well, yeah, that's what most wrestlers would say. When are you going to retire? I'm going to keep going until the wheels fall off. So he's probably speaking more truth in that one sentence than anything else he'll say in most of his promos. He said he did not focus on those who were negative. Said none of those criticisms mattered that he heard. The fans wake up every day and keep going to put food on their tables, and he planned on doing the same. He said WrestleMania 40 was not in the cards, but I'm a Chicago Cubs fan, and it won't be the first time or the last time I say this. There's always next year. Is that a Chicago Cubs thing? Because I thought that was a New York Mets thing as well. That's pretty much the fucking slogan of the New York Mets. There's always next year. So I guess we have that in common. And then he started to say that he would bust his ass, and then he was interrupted in mid-sentence by Drew McIntyre's music. McIntyre made his way down to the ring. Now, Michael Cole on commentary mentioned that Punk eliminated McIntyre from the Royal Rumble, which kind of plays into this whole thing. Shout out to Aaron, by the way, Aaron Ruggiero, who gifted 10 channel memberships. So, Aaron, thank you very much. McIntyre got in the ring. He recalled saying some pretty terrible things about Punk after he came back to WWE. And McIntyre said he stood by those things because Punk was terrible to him in the past, but he related to what Punk was saying now. And he got very serious, McIntyre did. He said he's never been much of a spiritual person, but I prayed for this, and it happened. Sounds like some tweets that I saw during the day today, once the news broke. So he said he prayed for this, and it happened. At least when he delivered it, like in the way that he delivered it, it was actually pretty funny. Like he was being so serious, and he was being so solemn, and it looked like he was going to actually pay respect to this man. And then he said, I prayed for this to happen, and now it's become a reality. And the fans booed. It got him a lot of heat. McIntyre then said that he assaulted him in the Rumble because he could not let him win. McIntyre couldn't sleep knowing Punk eliminated him, but he slept like a baby last night after hearing about Punk's injury. Then he exorcised the demon, he says, that was CM Punk. He said he would find a way to WrestleMania and he would live Punk's dream for him again. That is going to the main event. Even though the first time he main evented, it was in front of no people. But technically, Drew McIntyre has done what CM Punk has never done, which is main event a WrestleMania. Punk told McIntyre that his heart hurts worse than his tricep does. He said he's going to rehab his injury. He will main event WrestleMania, but before that, he said the first thing he'll do when he comes back is take out McIntyre. McIntyre threw a punch that Punk ducked. Punk threw 2 kicks and 2 punches with the bad arm. So they must have told him the injury can't be made any worse. It's probably like Cody in the pec. That's why they let him wrestle. They told Cody the injury can't get any worse. You've already ripped it off the bone. So as long as you can tolerate the pain, we'll clear you. So Punk is throwing punches with the injured arm. McIntyre, though, hit him with a Glasgow kiss. And then with Punk on the ground, he had Punk's arm down and he stomped on the injured arm. Sami Zayn ran out. He cleared McIntyre from the ring. Michael Cole called he was disgusted by this. He called Drew McIntyre disgusting. And he said that he is a pathetic excuse for a man. And he watched from the floor as Zayn and a trainer in the ring tended to Punk and they helped Punk to his feet. It sucks that he got hurt. Because you could see, if you watch this segment, you could tell. I mean, he's not that good of an actor. And so he had the tears were going. It didn't take much for this guy. If he was trying to get emotional on purpose, it didn't take much for him to get emotional. And you could tell. He's obviously very upset by what happened. I'm sure it ripped his guts out the minute that they came back to him and confirmed what the injury was, especially because he had already been through the rehab process the first time. Now, the first time it didn't matter because he got hurt the night of the Brawl Out scrum. So he was suspended. He sat at home. He wouldn't have been on the road anyway. And so he used that time at home to just rehab and heal up from his injury. This is a very different situation. The company was depending on him to be part of one of the biggest matches of WrestleMania this year. And he stood to be in a position probably to make a lot of money, that big WrestleMania payday. And so everybody loses in this situation. But I thought Punk was great here. Might not have been the promo he had originally intended to come out here and cut. I'm sure he would have loved to have cut a very different kind of promo. But I thought he was great here, and also even the way he put things in perspective, by relating it to a real-life situation with one of his friends who's going through cancer, and it just gives you the perspective of what's really important, right? Obviously, it's a serious injury. I'm not trying to downplay the seriousness of it. But again, just that perspective I thought was very effective here in this segment. Just showing that what he's dealing with, in the grand scheme of things, is not really that big of a deal. Punk was great. McIntyre was great. McIntyre continues to deliver on promos. He has got this whole persona that he is doing now. He has got this thing down pat. And if you are someone who has considered Drew more of a tweener than a heel over the last few months, there could be no doubt after tonight what category he falls into. He was a complete dick to everybody that he interacted with on the show tonight. And he was downright brutal to Punk here, laying the line on him about how I prayed for this and it's come true. And I'm going to take what would have been your main event and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it twice. You haven't even done it once. All right? Really just sticking it to him. So I thought Drew was great too. So now the question turns to what now for WrestleMania? We're heading into WrestleMania 40. What happens now? We were looking, think about this. We were looking very likely at Rollins against Punk and Gunther against Brock Lesnar. Now that was never confirmed, but the belief is that Brock and Gunther was going to be the WrestleMania match. And now we're not getting either one of those matches. So again, in the span of only a few days, the WrestleMania card, part of the card has been just blown up. And they have to come up with a plan B. Is it time to crown Gunther? The majority of the feedback I have been getting from you guys, ever since I was tweeting about this earlier today, is it's time to go ahead and put the World Heavyweight title on Gunther. The time has come. If there's no CM Punk Seth Rollins match, that's what makes the most sense. And I'm with you. I am. In fact, before CM Punk came back, if you remember, the match that I wanted to see, and I thought was going to be the World Heavyweight title match at WrestleMania, was going to be Seth Rollins and Gunther. That's why I was so adamant about getting the Intercontinental title off of him, either at the Royal Rumble or before the Royal Rumble, so that he could win the Royal Rumble. And then from there, go on to WrestleMania, he could challenge Rollins and he could win the World Heavyweight Championship. And then CM Punk came back, just blew everything up. And it became very clear that Rollins and Gunther, if that was ever even considered for WrestleMania, was off the table now, and they were going to be going with a very different match. Well, now Punk is out of the picture. Punk's out of the picture. Even Rollins is hurt, but he should be okay in time for Mania. So now we fall back to Gunther. I agree. I would love to see Gunther get that spot at WrestleMania and win the World Heavyweight title. I think they were holding off on that until later in the summer. I think they were holding off on that until Bash in Berlin, right? SummerSlam, Bash in Berlin, sometime around then. This might, if that's the case, this would obviously speed things up quite a bit. Rollins and Gunther is still a match that I would love to see, but he did not win the Royal Rumble, and he is not going to be at the Elimination Chamber. Unless WWE has worked their magic behind the scenes. Gunther himself only a few months ago said that because of the residency restrictions in this country, some visa issue, he can't leave the United States for a period of 6 months. This was in October. Okay, it's still only January. Elimination Chamber next month is in Perth. They're going to be down in Australia, so he can't leave the country, which means he can't be at Elimination Chamber, which means if they wanted to do a chamber match to crown a challenger for Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, Gunther would not be able to partake in that match. He's not going to be there. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't find, another way around that. You certainly could, and you could have him vacate the Intercontinental Championship. You could put that title up, in a tournament. If you wanted to do that, you could have a tournament for the vacant Intercontinental Championship and find a way to anoint him as the number one contender for the World Heavyweight title. He could win the number one contendership in one night on Raw in some big multi-man match, or maybe you don't do a tournament for the vacant Intercontinental title. Maybe you keep it on him and you have a tournament on TV to crown a challenger for Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. So you can utilize the tournament concept either way. I was thinking about the tournament idea as far as the IC title, just because I don't think you need to do a champion versus champion situation if this is the direction they were going to go in. I actually feel like it makes the outcome a little bit more predictable if they were to both go in as champion and you have the stipulation where it's winner take all. Because is Seth Rollins going to beat Gunther and take the Intercontinental title? Probably not, right? I think most people would imagine it would end up going the other way. Although I will say, Seth Rollins was once in a winner-take-all match at SummerSlam with John Cena. And Cena entered as the United States champion. Rollins entered as the WWE champion. And Rollins won. So Rollins ended up winning the lesser title. That's a rare thing, though, but it has happened before. So, you could certainly do it. I still think it is not ideal to take the Intercontinental title off of Gunther without having him lose it to someone. I don't like the idea of him just kind of surrendering it. I like what Samoa Joe did with the ROH TV title. I'm not a fan of that. I would much rather, for as long as he has had that championship, let somebody get the rub from beating Gunther and winning the Intercontinental title from him, right? From the unbeatable final boss. That would be the ideal situation. Here's the problem, though. If they are considering Gunther for a World Heavyweight title match at WrestleMania, it's too late. You can't beat him now. If you want to take the IC title off of him, he almost has to vacate it. You can't beat him for it before WrestleMania if the idea is to send him to WrestleMania to wrestle for the World Heavyweight title. He's locked in now with that IC title. And so that's the one downside to that. But you could have a tournament. You could have people in there. You could have Sheamus in there. You know, when Sheamus comes back, if they wanted to shift him over to Monday Night Raw, the Brawling Brutes are no more. You could easily have a storyline where, his contract expired and Adam Pearce swooped in and he signed Sheamus. And now Sheamus all of a sudden is on Raw. You have a tournament for the IC title. You put him in there, right? He could challenge for it. That could be one way to, finally build to a Sheamus Intercontinental title win. Andrade is now on Monday Night Raw. Braun Breaker just got his main roster call-up, although we don't know yet which brand he's going to end up on. They're both kind of competing for his services. But that's one way you can go about doing it, if you wanted to do it that way. After what happened later on in the show, though, tonight, I will say I'm not sure if Gunther is even going to be available for a World Heavyweight title match, because this stuff with Imperium and New Day is continuing, and the longer that this stuff continues with Imperium and the New Day, it really does start to make you wonder about Big E. And if they're really keeping that under wraps very well, and maybe there's something going on there that we're not aware of. So just keep that in the back of your mind too as a possibility. So yes, I love the idea of Gunther being the one. You have to work out some logistics as far as everything I just talked about, but it's certainly doable. What about Rollins and McIntyre? Drew McIntyre is in the thick of everything right now. Drew McIntyre was in the Final Four, right? Final Four, Final Six in the Men's Rumble on Saturday. He's the man who eliminated CM Punk for the next 9 months. As it turned out, he was back in the Raw main event tonight, wrestling Sami Zayn. They went off the air with Drew McIntyre. This guy is being featured in main events on a near weekly basis, and he doesn't have an obvious opponent for WrestleMania right now. So what a great situation for him to be in all of a sudden. If a spot has opened up, you can go back to Rollins and McIntyre. I don't know, even though I like the work he's doing, I don't know if people would want to see that again at WrestleMania. We've already seen it. We've already seen it 2 or 3 times. You're going to run it back again as your WrestleMania Night 1 World Heavyweight Championship match? I'm not even sure that would be the main event. The women may end up being the beneficiary here, because I think with Punk going down, there's no other match that you could do, I think, that's going to have the same marquee value that one would have had, just because of the names involved. We could be looking potentially at a women's main event on night 1. You could do Bayley and Io. You could do Rhea and Becky. Rhea and Becky I could see very easily being a WrestleMania Night 1 main event. So the Punk injury could actually help the women in that regard if you wanted to have a women's main event on that show. I think it just became that much more possible. But I want to give a shout out to Nicholas. Nicholas wrote into me on Twitter. We were having a whole back and forth earlier on today, me and a bunch of you guys. Nicholas had a very interesting idea, though, as far as Rollins and McIntyre. If they wanted to sweeten the pot a little bit, they could play into these reports that we have seen recently that McIntyre has not signed a new contract with WWE. Still has not signed a new deal. His current deal is up after WrestleMania. They're pushing this guy an awful lot for a guy who has not re-signed. And I think if the reports are to be believed, he's only under contract for another 2 or 3 months. They're pushing him awfully hard. But if you believe that, and it doesn't even matter if it's true, if the people believe, if the fans believe, even some of the fans who are kind of tuned into this kind of stuff, if they have it in their heads like, oh wait, McIntyre hasn't signed a new contract yet, make it a stipulation where McIntyre says, I need to beat you. I need to get a shot at that World Heavyweight title. I need it so badly I'm willing to risk my entire career. If I don't beat you, if I don't win the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania, I will leave WWE. And you might have people who can buy into it and say, well, he might actually leave. If he hasn't signed his new contract yet, maybe he will leave, right? We don't know. It actually helps make the outcome, I think, a little less predictable. So I like that idea. That was an idea from Nicholas, and I like that idea. They could certainly do that if they wanted to go with Rollins and McIntyre just to give it a stipulation, just to add something different this time around. But keep in mind, Damian Priest still has the Money in the Bank briefcase. He's still lurking. He can still cash in. Maybe he cashes in on Seth Rollins, whoever he wrestles. Maybe he cashes in on Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. You get a Judgment Day match earlier in the night. They lose their titles. Comes back out at the end of the night, cashes in his Money in the Bank, gets his big win. Mission accomplished, right? Trying to one-up Seth Rollins and do to Seth what Seth did to Roman all those years ago. This time he gets cashed in on, and Damian Priest walks out the World Heavyweight Champion. Can't discount that either. He's still holding on to that briefcase. As long as he has that briefcase, anything's possible. We had Finn Balor and Damian Priest, speaking of which, on this show tonight, defending the Undisputed Tag Team titles against DIY, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. I was very happy they slotted this match in the opening hour of the show since it was commercial-free, so it flowed a lot better than these matches normally would when they relegate them to the little box where they cut to two different commercials during the championship match. We didn't have to worry about that here. The fans were lukewarm to DIY when they came out, but as is the case with a lot of their recent matches, the longer the match went on for, the more they got into it, and they got invested. Balor tagged himself in. Gargano, though, took out Priest with a slingshot DDT, and Ciampa hit Balor with an air raid crash for a close near fall. DIY hit Balor with their meet-in-the-middle finish, but Priest grabbed Finn's leg, and he was able to pull it underneath the bottom rope just in time to get the rope break from the referee. Balor hit Gargano with a sling blade and a shotgun dropkick. Went up top for the coup de grace, but Gargano moved out of the way. He applied a Gargano escape. Here comes Damian Priest then. He's going to try to break it up, but there's Tommaso Ciampa. He takes Priest down. He locks him in the Sicilian stretch, and now we have dueling submissions. Now the crowd is reacting big because they're thinking we might get a title change here. Priest, though, ends up muscling Ciampa up while still in the hold. He muscles him up. He drops him on top of Gargano. That was his way of breaking up the submission. Everyone was trading strikes.
Look at Richie Rich over here.
Including Richie Rich over here.
Hey, I just want you to know, I think you rock. I don't mean The Rock, A Rock.
Man, Aaron's going nuts here. Another 10 gifted memberships. Aaron, with another 10 gifted memberships and a $100 super chat bomb.
Yowie wowie.
Aaron is on fire tonight, man. Aaron is going crazy. Aaron is quickly earning legendary status here in the live chat. Thank you very much, Aaron. I'm going to be reading your message and everybody else's later on, so get those super chats in if you want me to read your message. But we got to talk about the final few moments here of this title match because everybody was trading strikes. Priest drops Ciampa with a thrust kick. Priest also dropped Gargano on top of the announce desk, the front part, with a flatliner. And so with Gargano out of the picture, Priest hit Ciampa with a razor's edge, and Balor finished him off with the double stomp off the top to retain the tag team titles. This was great, and I am actually very happy that Gargano and Ciampa lost. Now, why am I happy about that? All right, I'm a DIY guy. I'm happy about that because there's no need to rush into this. They're still not over. They're still not completely over yet, but they're getting there. Every time they go out there, they get a little bit more exposure in front of these audiences. They take to them a little bit more. They have not been paired back together for long enough. I would give it at least a couple more months. And I would do the title change of WrestleMania. In fact, you could, again, tie it back into what I just talked about, where if you wanted to have Damian Priest cash in his Money in the Bank at WrestleMania, he and Balor could lose their belts earlier in the night. You could again, get back to the whole, dissension within the ranks of the Judgment Day. They've lost the gold. Or silver, I guess, would it be, right? Silver. But then he comes back out later and cashes in. I would like to see DIY win the belts, but at WrestleMania. Not on Raw. And so I'm happy they didn't win. Provided they are able to get a rematch at some point, and then they win in the rematch, because that should be the goal. But I'm okay with them not doing it tonight. I just think there's a better time to do it. You don't need to rush into it so quickly. Dominic and JD McDonough ran down to celebrate with the champions. Priest took the microphone and he invited R-Truth to the ring. They said they owed him an apology and he wanted him to get into the ring face to face. He promised Truth that he would not attack him, so of course you know how that goes. Truth got in the ring. He claimed that he traded Priest's t-shirt money for crypto. He did his taxes for him. And he liquidated his assets. So he was taken care of. Priest said that there was no way that Truth knew what any of that meant. And Truth said they were like a family. Priest is like his older brother. And Priest had this great, very quick off-camera response to the idea of him being, basically like his older brother. And Priest is like, dude, you're older than me. If anything, it would be the other way around. Balor, he said, was like their creepy uncle. And McDonough was like the stepbrother that they didn't want to acknowledge. And Priest said the Judgment Day was a family. But Truth, you're not in it. And he says he likes Truth, which is why he's not going to be the one to do this. And he called on Dominic, but before Dominic could do anything, McDonough ambushed R-Truth from behind and just started beating the crap out of him. The Miz ran out to make the save. They quickly cut him off, and Dominic laid him out with a frog splash. And so the Judgment Day stood tall to close out the segment here. Again, very good match. This was of all the matches on the show tonight, this was easily the best one. So if you're looking for the best Raw match, that was it right there. But I like the outcome. Like I said, no need to rush into that. Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark against Piper Niven and Chelsea Green. Baszler took out Niven at ringside. Stark, meanwhile, hit Chelsea with the Z360 and pinned her in 2 minutes. That was the match. It probably took me longer to actually say that and review the match than to watch the match itself. Because if you blinked, you missed it. It was over just like that. And by the way, you know what else was over just like that? The so-called commercial-free first hour, which ended at 8:53 p.m. That's a commercial-free 53 minutes. Not a full hour. I enjoyed it while it lasted. Undoubtedly based. Just subscribe to the channel, see? You guys push me over the 77,000 mark. You're already trying to get me to 78. I appreciate that. Mr. Royal Rumble himself, Cody Rhodes, was out to the ring next to address the audience and to possibly make his choice official as far as who he would challenge at WrestleMania. Maybe we would find out. He asked Tampa Bay, what do we want to talk about? He had something in mind to say in answer to that question, but on the way out here, he heard something for the very first time that was music to his ears. And he asked Michelle McCool. He asked Samantha Irvin to stand up if she wouldn't mind and say it one more time. And what he was referring to is when Cody came out, she introduced him as the 2023 and 2024 Men's Royal Rumble match winner. So she had him, or he had her. I'm telling you, I'm going on 4 hours sleep. He had her recite that over a second time. Like a great heel. That's something that a heel would do. And he's supposed to be one of the biggest baby faces in the company. Oh, I like that introduction you gave me. You really hyped me up. Why don't you get up and do it again? And so she did. And she stood up and she said 2023 and 2024. Men's Royal Rumble winner, Cody Rhodes. So there you go. A heel move by the babyface Cody. And Aaron with another 10 gifted memberships. Should keep like a running counter here on my phone. Like, what is that, 40 now? Is that 30 or 40? I've lost track. I think it's JM. Was JM have the record? Might be JM who has the record. Think of 100. Anyway, Cody says he knows that some fans, they come to Raw, they come to SmackDown, or some of the live events, the PLEs. The expectation is on them, the superstars, to provide the fans with an escape from whatever is going on in their everyday life. But he doesn't think people realize that sometimes they need to escape too. Said the last 48 hours of his life has been challenging. He says everything is good, all is well, but on Saturday he said the fans will never know how much he needed them. He is endlessly grateful for that, but let's get to it. He looked up at the WrestleMania sign. Right there, he looked at the sign, and he said, let's make WrestleMania 40 official. And before he could do so, he was interrupted by the World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins, who walked down, no brace, unless he had the brace under his pants, but he came out in a blue suit, some blue outfit of some kind, looking like a Smurf. And he comes down to the ring. Fans sang his song. He said, Tampa Bay's right. Cody does deserve it, because Cody got the "you deserve it" chance. So he goes, Cody does deserve it. He said, over the past year, we've developed a mutual respect for each other. Back-to-back Royal Rumbles, he goes, that's special. And they shook hands. But Seth said that, I'm going to be real with you. He said that if he chooses to fight Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, he's making a mistake. He thinks Cody should fight him instead. And I think it was at this point, it was either here or a few minutes after this, the fans start chanting no. Like you can just see them. They're all chanting no, because even the fans know that's not the match for WrestleMania. That's not the match that they want to see. Would it be a great match? Absolutely. Their first 3 matches were great. I think another Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins match would be a tremendous match, but that is not the match that people want to see at WrestleMania 40. So Rollins said he saw what Cody said at the Rumble press conference when he called himself the guy. He said Cody is not the guy. Roman Reigns isn't even the guy anymore. He says, I'm the guy. And the World Heavyweight Championship is the title in WWE. He said last year Cody wins the Rumble. It makes perfect sense for him to go after Roman Reigns, but that was when there was only one champion. But the landscape has changed. And he gets it. He understands. He says for a year now, all that Cody has been thinking about is Roman Reigns. And he said Cody has been on the road with Seth, making town after town, city after city, building after building. He says, who's been in those main events? Which title has been defended? Which title has actually been on the line? Because it sure as hell wasn't the WWE Championship. And do you know how this title came to be? He said it was because every single one of these people were sick of Roman Reigns showing up every other week, and then showing up every other month, and then showing up every 6 months, rarely defending the title, and when he did, cheating to hold on to it. This title, he says, the World Heavyweight title, is for us, by us. And we have built this title up through broken bones and a broken back and a blown out knee. Him and Cody both. They have leveled the playing field with the World Heavyweight Championship. So we don't have to believe that Roman Reigns is some kind of a god, because he's not. He said, hell, we don't need Roman Reigns at all. And the fans cheered. Keeps taking shots at Roman. You would think at some point they're going to do Roman and Seth, but I don't see that in the cards anytime soon. So he goes, I got to ask you this, man. What title do you want? He said, do you want the Hollywood title? Do you want the Hulk Hogan title? Do you want the one for posers and frauds? I don't know if he was calling Hogan a fraud, but he did mention that right after he name-dropped Hulk Hogan, so I'm just saying. Oh, by the way, I should mention this here. Because we still have people who are convinced that Roman Reigns has to or is going to win at WrestleMania, and he's going to hold on to the championship at least through September so that he can break Hulk Hogan's record. There is no record, but just go with it. But he's got to pass Hogan on the list of the greatest number of days as the WWE champion. It'll move him to number 3. It'll move Hogan to number 4 so that they can basically erase Hogan in effect, right? And it didn't hit me at the time. I was sitting in Tropicana Field watching the show. Hogan was there, by the way. He was off to my left. He was up in one of those skyboxes. And I realized, as I thought back, I said, wait a minute. Where is this sentiment coming from that WWE is trying to effectively hide Hulk Hogan? They just had this man do the introduction video for the Royal Rumble. He was Mr. Royal Rumble on Saturday. If they're trying to bury Hulk Hogan, if they're trying to hide Hulk Hogan, they're doing a very poor job of it. He literally opened the card and hosted, basically, WrestleMania. Or not WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble. On the road to WrestleMania. He hosted the show practically. This is a great video package, actually. So again, I don't know where this nonsense is coming from that they want to just hide Hogan. So like, he'll never be acknowledged again. Roman will pass him and that'll be it. Give me a fucking break. They're not trying to do anything. He can lose at WrestleMania and that'll be the end of it. There's nothing to pass. There's no record to break. There's nothing to hide. There's no one to bury. They clearly don't give a shit. I don't know where people have manufactured this idea in their head that, oh, they're trying to bury Hogan further down the list. Okay, so he'll be 4 instead of 3. Ooh. These people have no brains. Seriously, I think if you cut their head open and you pried this up, it would just be like a puddle of ooze. You wouldn't even see any actual brain. It would just be ooze, like brain soup. You open their head up. Seriously, use your fucking brain. If you have one. Anyway, so he wants to know, what title are you going after? Or do you want the Dusty Rhodes title? Do you want the Workhorse title, the Blue Collar Championship? Because that's what the World Heavyweight title is all about. To see who is the best man between these ropes. He said he doesn't need an answer from him right now. You don't have to give me an answer right away. Said that this is going to be the biggest decision that you will ever make in your entire life. And what he wants to know is, what's in here? And he pointed to Cody's heart. What's in here? And he asked him, what kind of man do you want to be? Cody said he has an insane amount of respect for Seth. This is the last thing that I woke up thinking that would be talked about here on the show tonight. Last thing he thought he would be talking about, but I'll think about it. And that's all that they had to say to each other. That's how they left it, and he could think about it. There's nothing wrong with thinking about it. He could take a sweet time thinking about it. You know, he's got 2.5 months to think about it. He could think of making set aside 15 minutes a day for the next 2 months, and he could sit in the corner of his room and he can think very intently about it. It's not going to change a fucking thing. It's not going to change a fucking thing. You know why? Because the WWE title match at WrestleMania is going to be Cody Rhodes challenging Roman Reigns. And that is going to be the match. So take your time. There's no rush. But it's going to be Roman Reigns one-on-one with Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. It's not going to change the outcome here. What they're trying to do, very clearly, they're trying to stall because they do have a lot of time yet to go between now and WrestleMania. They're trying to stall. They're trying to make things more dramatic. All right, they're scripting a television show here. So that's fine if they want to build more dramatics between these two men. If they want to build more dramatics as far as what decision will Cody make. I mean, it's not LeBron, right, the decision, but what will Cody's decision be? Cody's decision was very clear on Saturday when he won the Rumble and looked up at Roman Reigns and pointed at Roman Reigns in the skybox, and Roman Reigns pointed back at him and held up that WWE Undisputed title. When they were eyeballing each other from afar, Cody made it clear on Saturday what his choice is going to be. Just a formality at this point. I mean, there are going to be people who are going to watch this segment and they're going to think, oh, maybe they're changing plans. Maybe they're actually going to do Cody and Seth on night 1 because they're going to do Rock and Roman on night 2. Rock still has not even agreed to do a match. Do you know what today is now officially? It is well after midnight. It's January 30th, okay? We're going to be in February in a couple of days. February! WrestleMania is at the beginning of April. The Rock hasn't signed on to do a fucking match? What are we doing here? Are we holding a spot open for him? Are we going to hold a spot open until the week before when he finally makes the decision? He'll be sitting on the fucking crapper at home and it'll hit him like a bolt of lightning. You know what? I must do it. I must do this match. How long does this man need to make a decision? I don't get it. I don't understand. WWE has to move on at some point. They have plans they have to put into place. Triple H now, he's in an emergency session because half of his card has been blown up now. Because Punk going down is going to have an effect on every other match down the card. If they move Gunther, if they move this person, that person, it's not just one match that's affected. It's at least 2, maybe 3 that end up being affected by that one injury, and he's not the only injury. So Triple H already has a full plate trying to figure out what the hell he's going to do for WrestleMania without having to worry about, okay, has Dwayne gotten back to us yet? Is he in or out? Like, I don't know, what's going on here? I mean, come on. So put The Rock aside for a second, okay? The Rock will figure out his wants and needs at some later date. Right now, we have to focus on the here and now. We have to focus on the active roster. We have to focus on the people who matter. We have to focus on the people who are here right now. And that is Seth Rollins, and that is Roman Reigns, and that is Cody Rhodes, and that is Gunther, and that is Drew McIntyre. These are the people that Triple H needs to be focused on right now. We're not talking about Rock. We're not talking about Austin. We're not talking about bringing Undertaker back. We're not talking about any of that stuff. I like it when Rollins drops the goofy act as he did here in this promo, takes the shades off and gets serious. I like it when he does that. It's one of the reasons why I was looking forward to Rollins and Punk so much. I don't think we would have had clown Rollins. We would have had Seth Rollins and CM Punk trading barbs and going back and forth, and it would have made for great television. And it sucks that now we're not going to get it. The other thing he was trying very hard to do here, noticeably so, during this segment, which he should because he's the champ, is go out there, hit whatever, lines or bullet points they want him to hit. Because I'm sure they give him a rough outline of what they want him to say. I don't think he's reciting anything. He's one of those people who I think has earned the right to not have to do that. But he knows that his job is to go out there and make that World Heavyweight Championship mean more than anything else in the world. Make that the most prestigious, sought-after, important title in the entire company. Talk it up, right? Even if that means bashing Roman and his title. He did the best he could. He tried to make it sound plausible that Cody Rhodes might actually have second thoughts and go, you know what? You make a good point there. It is the workhorse title. I want to be the workhorse. I'm gonna wrestle you for that World Heavyweight title. So it makes sense that he would go out there and say the things that he would say. But let's be honest here. Let's just be perfectly honest. Does anybody actually believe, anybody in this chat, anybody who's going to watch this later, chime in the comments, do you honestly believe Seth Rollins and CM Punk, or Seth Rollins and, it's unbelievable to me because these men have had 3 matches before, okay? Cody and Rollins have had 3 matches. In one of those matches, by the way, Cody had a torn pec. He beat Rollins in all 3 of those matches. Seth Rollins is 0 for 3 against Cody Rhodes. Are we to believe that we are going to get this match for a 4th time when Cody is already 3-0 on this guy? Only now, Rollins not only has a broken back, but he's got a blown out knee as well. So he's coming into this match not at 100%. And he's going to go in there and beat this guy that he lost to when he was 100% healthy in those first 3 matches. Just in terms of like kayfabe wise, when you look at it like that, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Right? Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So they're trying. I don't blame them for at least trying, but I would not call that finishing the story. And everything right now is being built around this whole idea of finishing the story. 2K24 is Finish the story. That's the whole mode, the whole theme of the video game. There's a reason why they put him on the cover, and there's a reason why it is all about finishing the story. Because if he wasn't going to finish the story, then we wouldn't be hearing finish the story every 5 fucking seconds on WWE television. If there's one thing WWE is very good at, for better or worse, it's beating either a concept or a slogan or a buzzword. They beat that shit to death. I mean, even I'm sick of hearing about this fucking story at this point. But why are we hearing about it so much? Because they're building to the story being finished, which will be great because then we can move on to a new story. Right? New stories are good. That's a good thing. Jey Uso has no story at the moment. I was very surprised at the Rumble on Saturday that even though they started out together, Jimmy and Jey, that they did not eliminate each other. Jimmy did not eliminate Jey. Jey did not eliminate Jimmy. That surprised me because I thought there would be more between them that would be planting, again, roots here in the ground for a future WrestleMania match. And I still think that's the direction here. I think it's Jimmy and Jey at WrestleMania. It didn't really do anything after that opening stretch with the two of them in the Rumble match. But we had Jey Uso on this show one-on-one against Bronson Reed. Never-ending Story. I never saw that movie. Believe it or not, I never saw the Never-Ending Story. Don't know why. Just never did. I guess I'm watching it now, though, right? So I don't have to watch it. Jey fought back after a break. He hit a flying crossbody. Barely got a 2 count. Reed blocked an enziguri and hit a senton for 2. Reed no-sold a super kick, so Jey hit 2, or 2 more. And then Reed avoided an Uso splash, hit a Death Valley driver for 2. Jey avoided the tsunami splash. It won't be the same without being able to hear Wade Barrett scream that on commentary. So that sucks. But he missed the tsunami, and then Jey hit a super kick, a spear, and an Uso splash, and he got the pin on Bronson Reed. And so much for those promos they recorded with Bronson Reed a few weeks ago. The moment Seth Rollins got hurt, Bronson Reed got fucked. Because I am convinced that the Elimination Chamber World Heavyweight title match was going to be Seth Rollins defending against Bronson Reed. That would have been his sort of buffer match heading into WrestleMania. It gives him a big man to go in there and put down. In Australia, he can put down the big Aussie. Move on to wrestle CM Punk. Didn't work out that way. So here he is doing the job for Jey Uso, and thanks for coming, Bronson Reed. Backstage, Andrade was with Adam Pearce. He was signing his Monday Night Raw contract, so he is now officially a member of the Raw roster, which is surprising that they would put him and Charlotte on different sides, but Charlotte's home with him. She's not even on television right now, and she won't be for many more months. And they're probably going to do another draft in a few months, and I would expect that Charlotte is going to end up on Monday Night Raw, or wherever Andrade is. So her being out right now, it doesn't mean anything. When time comes for her to come back, she will be on the same brand with Andrade. Right now, that is going to be Raw. Nick Aldis walked in, the SmackDown GM. He knocked on the door. He came in. Pearce taunted him over Andrade signing with Raw. You just missed it. He signed with Monday Night Raw. And Aldis said that, well, that's a shame because SmackDown had a handsome contract offer for him as well. Pearce said that, well, I was quicker on the trigger. And Andrade told Aldis to say hello to Zelina Vega for him and then made his exit. So Aldis wasn't thrilled about this. He said, look, I allowed Bayley to appear on the show tonight so that you could have both Royal Rumble winners on Monday Night Raw. And Pearce said, look, it's just business. Aldis said, speaking of business, we had to discuss the Elimination Chamber. And their meeting ended after Aldis got a phone call from who he said was Braun Breaker. I got to take this. And when he said the name Braun Breaker, you could actually hear the fans in the background. They reacted like, ooh. So Braun has not even made one appearance as a full-time performer on Raw. Last time we saw him was probably a couple of years ago, beating Dolph Ziggler for the NXT Championship. This man has not officially made his main roster debut yet, and you can just hear the reactions already from the crowd. He had it was a star-making night for him on Saturday. It really was. I said this the other night, man. He goes in there and he looks and feels like a real legitimate ass kicker. We don't have enough of those in wrestling today. I feel like we have a lot of people who cosplay as ass kickers. There are very few, though. When you really tally them all up, there are very few. I would put him in the category of someone who, if this were a real-life situation, I certainly wouldn't want to be looking across from him on the other side of the ring. He has a certain explosiveness to him that I have not seen since Bill Goldberg from WCW. And last I checked, Goldberg back then did pretty well for himself. Braun is even more talented than Goldberg is. So Braun Breaker is going to be one of the breakout, if not the breakout star in 2024. Where he ends up, though, we don't know. But the fact that he's already getting reactions like that from the audience is a pretty good sign. I hate that we're not getting the reunion with Andrade and Zelina Vega. I really enjoyed them being put together in NXT when they were. I thought they played off of each other very well. And I still think Andrade is going to have to link up with somebody at some point. Initially it might be fine for him to be by himself, but he's going to need somebody. And if he's going to need somebody, why not Zelina? But right now they're on different brands. And so they're teasing that Braun is going to SmackDown. Now, Braun was in the Rumble. He did a backstage interview after, and he made comments that would have you believe that he's here. He's on the main roster now. It's just a matter of where he lands. And they're teasing tonight here the possibility that Nick Aldis may sign him and bring him over to SmackDown, which would be a great place for him. I would actually be okay with him being on either show, but I also don't think that I would bring him in as a babyface. I just think he was doing pretty well as a heel in NXT, and all the great babyfaces started out as heels. So why not start him out that way? Let him keep doing what he's been doing. Let him be a heel. Let him start ripping through people. Eventually, the fans are going to turn him babyface anyway. So I would just flip the order of it. But based on I think he shaved the beard and he was wearing his old babyface gear on Saturday. Probably going to debut as a babyface. I just look at that SmackDown roster and just see more potential in him working against babyfaces. Because you could debut him and let him run through some lower level guys, and then you've got LA Knight for him to work with, and you've got AJ Styles, and you've got Randy Orton, and you've got Kevin Owens, and maybe even a Bobby Lashley. How about Lashley and Breaker? How's that for a match? Those were all baby faces. Just seems to me like there's more of those people for him to work with than the other way around. And Dragon Lee. Put him on there too. Braun Breaker and Dragon Lee against each other. That'd be great. Jackie Redmond interviewed Becky Lynch backstage. Becky said that she let a lot of people down at the Royal Rumble, including herself, but it was not in her nature to stay down. She would train a little bit harder, she would think a little bit smarter, and fight a little bit dirtier. She would stop at nothing until she was back at the top and main eventing with the championship. We had Gunther against Kofi Kingston for the Intercontinental Championship. Gunther applied a Boston Crab. They very abruptly went to a commercial break. We were not even a full minute into this match. I shit you not, we were probably a good 40 seconds in. Right to commercial. Gunther dominated until Kingston fired back with a forearm, but Gunther cut him off with a neck breaker. And Gunther applied the crab again, and again they went to a break, with the hold still applied. Kingston managed to drive Gunther into the ring post and then followed with consecutive suicide dives. Gunther got back in the ring. Kingston caught him with the Trouble in Paradise. And Gunther, with presence of mind, he rolls out to the floor before Kingston can make the cover. So with Gunther draped over the steel steps here a few moments later, Kingston hit a diving elbow drop all the way from the barricade onto Gunther, followed by a diving leg drop off the top rope for a 2 count. Gunther blocked a Trouble in Paradise. He tried for the Boston Crab again. Kingston countered, though, into a cradle, only got 2. Gunther hit a clothesline. Kingston reversed another one, though, into an SOS for a near fall. The fans chanted, "This is awesome." They were quickly silenced by Gunther hitting a clothesline, drop kick, and powerbomb with a stack. Thanks for coming, Kofi Kingston. And still, your Intercontinental Champion. He will hit 600 days with that title. The ring general, Gunther, continues his run. His reign continues as the champion, as it should. Xavier Woods came out to check on Kofi after the match before he was attacked and laid out by Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci. And Gunther was very pleased by this. He was very pleased by what he saw here from his fellow Imperium stablemates. And all I will say about Gunther, Gunther can't miss. Gunther can't miss. Another very good title defense and another victim for the champion. This was a very good match here. But I also mentioned to you earlier, I had said something a little bit earlier about this whole New Day Imperium feud that we've been watching. This feud has been going on for months. Okay? And I think that these two groups have brought the best out of each other. We've seen a more serious side of the New Day. We have seen Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci, who up until just recently were basically job bait on these shows. Even they have had a mean streak to them, right? There's been a harder edge to them that we've seen. So I feel like the work has been solid. They brought out the best in each other, but yet we are still subjected to Imperium beating the crap out of the New Day because the New Day are outmanned 3-on-2. And I'm watching this and I'm like, the Royal Rumble has come and gone. You would think by now they would move on from this, but this seems to just be continuing. Gunther has already beaten Woods. He's already beaten Kofi. Why are they continuing with this? And it makes me think about Big E. Big E was asked, by the way, he was interviewed by, I think Denise interviewed him at one of the press events this weekend and asked him about his injury. And again, he just talked mostly about how his quality of life is very good. He can move his neck. He has no pain. He's able to do all the things that he wants to do. He just can't get cleared to get back in the ring. But, he just has to be very careful with, whatever he chooses to do next. And, you would listen to him and you would think, okay, well, he's probably not going to be back in the ring, right? He's coming to terms with the fact that his career is most likely over. But they have been very hush-hush about, this whole Big E situation. They don't talk about it. They don't address it. He hasn't made any appearances on the show. Even just to be in their corner, just to kind of be there, to be a cheerleader for them, be their manager or something. And they haven't done that. And it makes me wonder if the reason they haven't done that, frankly, is because they're saving it for a surprise. Is there the possibility that we could have a Big E return very soon, and that they could potentially be setting up for Gunther to defend his Intercontinental title against Big E at WrestleMania? Still seems far-fetched to me. Again, the injury he sustained could have been just catastrophically bad. It's a very, very serious injury. He's a very lucky man that he's able to walk and he's able to feed himself. And it's just, seriously, just to do all the basic things in life that he was able to do prior to the injury. And then you have to ask the question, is it worth it? Is it worth it to tempt fate and get back in the ring and take bumps and get dropped on my neck and dropped on my head and run the risk of being paralyzed one day? It's a scary thought. I don't know what decision I would make if I was in his shoes. But I'm sure he wants to come back. And like Bryan Danielson and Saraya and Edge and all these people who were once told you will never be cleared again, eventually they got back in the ring. Could we be preparing for the return of Big E? If Big E were to come back and challenge Gunther for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania, I would be perfectly fine with them putting the championship on him. What a great story that would be for him to make his big comeback after 2 years away. He sees what's going on with his New Day stablemates getting their asses handed to them every week. He can't take it anymore. And he shows up as a surprise one day to run off Imperium and to put down Gunther. And all of a sudden now we get potentially a very satisfying payoff here to this months-long feud that builds to the return of Big E, and what a great moment that would be. I still say it's probably not worth the risk involved. I'm not his doctor, though. Apparently the bone has fused or healed or whatever it was, or ossifying, whatever the word is. They were waiting for the bone to kind of progress, and it has. But he is still, someone who suffered a very, very serious neck injury, and he has to make sure that if he's going to make his way back into the ring one day, that he knows the risks and that you weigh the pros and cons of that decision. I don't need to see him in the ring again for the rest of my life if it's going to mean that he's got a better than 50% chance of something going bad. WWE would never allow him back in the ring anyway. But it's just the feeling I have watching this segment tonight. It just was tailor-made for him to get involved at some point. So again, I'm just sitting here going, what's the payoff here? I guess that's the ultimate question. If they're going to continue to do this, is there a payoff? Is there a satisfying payoff to this? I can't see what that is other than Big E coming back. I don't know what else it would be. And if that were to happen, obviously that would take Gunther out of the World Heavyweight title picture at WrestleMania, so you can forget about that. But Gunther and Big E, if that were even possible, would be a hell of a fucking match for them to build up for WrestleMania. I mean, that would be something. That would be a story to. You thought Kofi Mania back in 2019 was something when everybody was going nuts for Kofi Kingston. I was in the stadium that night. People were crying when he beat Daniel Bryan to win that championship. That whole story came together in the span of 2 months. Kofi Mania didn't take off until February, like around the Elimination Chamber. It just all came together so quickly. So there's still time for something like that to happen. Now, we had the new women's tag team champions, the Kabuki Warriors. Asuka and Kairi Sane, non-title match here, taking on Tegan Nox and Natalya. Asuka and Kairi, they worked over Tegan until Natty made the tag and hit Asuka with a German suplex and a discus clothesline. Kairi saved Asuka from a sharpshooter and took out Tegan Nox. Natty used the baseball slide, took out Kairi. Asuka, though, knocked her down with a kick. Late in the match, Natty was calling for a tag. She was reaching over. She was calling for Tegan to tag in. Tegan ignored her. She looked over at Kairi on the outside and turned her focus on her. In the end, though, she paid a price for it. Got tripped up on the apron. Tegan fell flat on her face. Asuka in the ring set up Natty, and Kairi dropped her with the assisted insane elbow. So you know what it was? Remember the old demolition finish? Demolition would do a tandem finish where might have been Smash holding the guy over his knee, and then Axe would come off the ropes, the middle rope with an elbow drop. Kind of similar thing here. We have the assisted insane elbow for the win. Crowd was very quiet for this. And it looks like the Tegan-Natty pairing is coming to an end. Let us all bow our heads and have a moment of silence for the Natalya-Tegan Nox pairing. There you go. Moment of, gotta show some respect here. Moment of silence for this tremendous, amazing tag team. I'll be very disappointed. I'll be heartbroken, frankly. I'll be devastated when they break up. I mean, they have just think of all the wins. Think of all the championships that these two have held together. All those great matches that they've had together. The Hall of Fame beckons one day. It's going to be incredible. I hope I would love to do the induction. I'll write that speech. I'll start putting my first draft together right now. I'll start thinking about what the 10-bell salute. That's right. We should have done a 10-bell salute. I wish I had the sound effect. Well, it's not over yet. They haven't split up yet. But tonight was the first sign that it's coming. So when it actually happens, maybe we'll do a 10-bell salute. In the back, Jackie Redmond interviewed Kaden Carter and Katana Chance, and they informed her that they are getting a rematch for the women's tag team titles next week. For those who missed it, they lost the belts to Asuka and Kairi on SmackDown on Friday night. Then we had the winner of the 2024 Women's Royal Rumble match, Bayley, was out next with all the members of Damage Control for an interview in the ring. Bayley stood and she pointed at the WrestleMania sign. Since she won the Rumble, she can do that. She told the fans that she would give them a rare opportunity to take a picture of Damage Control. Take a picture. You got the women's tag team champions here. You got the WWE Women's Champion. And you've got the winner of the Royal Rumble. This has never happened before, where all of us are in the ring together at the same time like this. She said it's all due to her. Everyone said Damage Control was going to be a flop and that she wasn't as good as she was before her injury, but she doesn't listen to negativity. So she's Triple H at the press conference on Saturday night. Bayley said that at a time when they have the most stacked and talented women's roster ever, she came out on top. And then she looked over at Michael Cole and she gloated that she was in the match. She could tell Rhea Ripley that I beat her record because she was in the Rumble for 63 minutes and 3 seconds, which I think just edges out the record that Rhea Ripley set for a women's Rumble. Well, that brought out Rhea Ripley, the Women's World Heavyweight Champion. She asked Bayley if she thought she accomplished something. She was in the aisle talking to her from afar. Rhea said that the only reason Bayley topped her time in the Rumble is because she was not in the Royal Rumble match. All of a sudden, Nia Jax attacked Rhea Ripley from behind. There's a storm coming. You know, in Tampa, they have storms. They have hurricanes sometimes. It's terrible. I mean, you know, usually this time of year in Tampa, St. Pete, very cold, very, I would say cold. It can be cold, but very cool. We got very lucky because for the majority of the trip this past weekend, it was unseasonably warm. So we had weather in the 70s and the 80s. But last night, going to that Undertaker show, we had to wait outside the theater for 20 minutes or whatever it was. Oh, my God. I guess we must have been right by the water. Well, I guess in Florida, you're always by the water. But we were close enough to the water. It was like a wind tunnel. I was like, what the fuck? I left New York to come to Florida. I didn't want to bring New York with me. It was warmer in New York than it was in Florida last night. It's not supposed to be like that. So anyway. How did I even get on this subject? Oh, they're right, a storm, a hurricane. Right, Hurricane Nia comes tumbling in, and she attacks Rhea Ripley from behind. And they start fighting at ringside. They get into the ring. Damage Control now is just, they're standing in the corner, and they're watching all this unfold. Nia puts Rhea down, and she hits her with 3 leg drops, and then drags her to the corner. Nia climbs up to the middle rope, and she hits the bonsai, or she calls it the Annihilator. It will always be the bonsai. She should start yelling bonsai before she does it. So she squashes Rhea, and then gets up, and she slowly walks over to the corner. Now, all the other members of Damage Control have left the ring. Bayley is the only one left in there, and now she's up, you know, she's in the corner, and she's backing away from Nia. And Nia looks at her, got up in her face, and told Bayley, you could pick Io, or you could pick anybody else, but Rhea Ripley is not going to make it to WrestleMania. And Bayley, all nervous, said, well, if you would have let me finish, what I was going to say is that I will make my decision on SmackDown on Friday night. So there's 2 important takeaways from this segment. Number 1, Rhea Ripley is likely defending her Women's World Heavyweight title at the Elimination Chamber in Australia against Nia Jax. That's going to be your championship match. That's going to be, again, the buffer match for her before she gets to WrestleMania. And you've got 2 women in this match here, both born in Australia. Rhea Ripley, a native Aussie. Nia Jax, also born in Australia. She wasn't raised there, but she was born, believe it or not, in Australia. So that's an interesting little tidbit there. And you know that Rhea going to Perth is going to be cheered like a returning hero. So it's smart. If you're going to put her in the ring with somebody, Nia Jax is going to get a ton of heat. The one thing that she has been very, very good at since she came back. Now, whether it's the right kind of heat or not is up for debate. But I will tell you, especially even on Saturday at the Rumble, when she came out, they hit her number and her music hit, and then she came out. The boos, the boo birds rained down on this woman. It's an effective way to use her. So Rhea is going to be cheered anyway in Australia. You may as well embrace it. You may as well not try to fight against it. So it's an opponent that makes sense. And Nia, of course, Nia is not going to win. But it'll be something for Rhea Ripley to do on the show, because you have to have her on the show. Becky Lynch is going to be busy trying to find her way into WrestleMania, into that championship match. Maybe she'll win if there's a women's chamber. Maybe she'll win the women's chamber. The other takeaway from this segment, other than knowing it's going to be Rhea and Nia at the Elimination Chamber, is Io Sky's reaction when Bayley made the comment there at the end about how I'll make my decision on Friday. They showed a shot of Io on the outside. And she wasn't looking up at Bayley. She was just sort of looking off and clutching, I think she had her title in her hand. And that look on her face, I don't know if it was a look of concern or if it was a look of disappointment or she was upset, whatever the look was, it was a troublesome look. And you and I both know that Bayley is not going to pick Rhea Ripley, or even if she does, she's not going to be wrestling Rhea at WrestleMania. The question is, how do they get to Bayley and Io? Because all of Damage Control, they're still together, right? We know what's coming. When and how do they do it? Is it a Batista situation, thumbs up, thumbs down, or do they attack her first, which is what I think is going to end up happening, to put sympathy on Bayley? I don't know. I want to see how it plays out on Friday night if she's going to be on SmackDown to make her decision. It's going to be very interesting. We may get what I just described may happen on Friday for all we know. So that's coming very quickly. Drew McIntyre one-on-one with Sami Zayn. McIntyre caught Sami diving over the ropes at him and then tossed him over the announce desk. McIntyre counted along with the referee. And Sami may well have ended up being counted out, but instead, Drew, probably at like the 6th count, he decided to go out after him. And he opted instead to throw Sami back into the ring. Then he turned his attention over to Logan Paul. He turned his attention, I'm looking at the fucking chat. He turned his attention over to Pat McAfee and shouldn't have done that because he took his eye off the ball like I just did. And Sami Zayn did a dive out to the floor, and he took down McIntyre. That took us into a picture-in-picture, I believe the final picture-in-picture break of the show. Later on, Zayn hit a tornado DDT for a near fall. McIntyre came back with a spine buster and a jackknife cover for 2. Drew followed that up with a sit-out powerbomb, and then Zayn went for a Blue Thunder Bomb. He could not get McIntyre up, so McIntyre dropped him with a headbutt. Drew headed up top. Zayn caught him, though, and crotched him. And then he superplexed him. Sami went for the haluva kick. McIntyre knocked him down with a shoulder block instead. Drew counted down. He was going to go for the Claymore kick. And Zayn cut him off. He executed a terrible Blue Thunder Bomb. By Sami Zayn standards, this was pretty bad. Now, I don't know if that was done intentionally because he was selling, he was selling pain, or if he just couldn't get him up for it. But he got him up a little bit. Not the best Blue Thunder Bomb I've seen him do. McIntyre, though, came back with a belly-to-belly suplex, and then he kicked up to his feet. Drew hoisted Sami up. He went to the middle rope, and he dropped him with white noise. McIntyre showed frustration when Sami kicked out. He was starting to get very upset. And he starts yelling at Zayn, and he says, "You've got some balls. You've got some balls, but there are some people who are out of my league." Zayn threw some punches. McIntyre covered up until he hit him with another Glasgow kiss. So McIntyre ran to the corner, but as Drew is running to the corner, he doesn't see that Sammy is following right behind him. And Sammy is gearing up to hit the haluva kick. Now, when he comes in to deliver the kick, right, the leg goes up. Drew kind of ducks down and he covers up. And what ends up happening is, as Sammy runs into the corner, it looks like Drew hit him or headbutted him, or at least that's the idea, in the balls. Now, on the replay, it didn't look to me like there was much contact actually made. I didn't think it looked that great, but that was the idea. Was it done on purpose? Was it not done on purpose? Gee, I wonder. I don't know. That's up to you, the viewer, to figure out. The idea was probably on purpose. So Sammy now is selling, ball pain. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, I know we have the ball peen hammer. Remember the ball peen hammer from the Aces and Eights? I'm not talking ball peen. I'm talking ball pain. I'm not talking bull pain either. That was a wrestler. So I'm telling you, this is what happens when you only get 3.5 hours of sleep. You start having hallucinations. I'm seeing things. I'm imagining things. I'm calling people by their wrong name. I don't know what's wrong with me. This is what happens. This is what happens when you do your Royal Rumble review at 3 o'clock in the morning the other night. I have been fucked up ever since. I still have not recovered from that night. Oh, man. Anyway. Poor Sammy goes down, and now Drew takes advantage. He hits the Claymore kick, and he pins Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn has become basically like a jobber to the stars of late. I mean, he's just taken L after L after L. The people love him. He's a made guy, so, I mean, it's not like he can't overcome it. But, yes. No. Ball peen. Look it up. It's a ball peen hammer. It's a real thing. Kick him in the yam bags. Yes, we love Taz here. So it's a win for Drew. After the match, Michael Cole said that McIntyre's low blow seemed inadvertent, he said. So McIntyre continues to act like a dick and hit people in theirs, which is pretty much what his character is right now. His character is he's just a dick to people. But it's working for him, and by sheer circumstance, he may well end up challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. If he plays his cards right, you never know. It may just be that Triple H goes with McIntyre and Seth, or McIntyre and Seth and Sammy, maybe even in a three-way. All these guys are in the mix right now. Without knowing what Triple H's final decision is going to be, everybody has to be in the mix. And if it's McIntyre and Rollins, I do think, adding that stipulation where if Drew doesn't win the belt, he'll leave WWE. Normally you do a stipulation like that, you're almost giving away the finish. Because people don't, they're not just going to leave WWE. But if there are people who believe that, maybe his contract is running out, maybe he's not going to re-sign, maybe he's going to take some time off, right? Then, you could create interest that way. It would at least add a different dynamic to a match that's already been done before. So we'll see, because if Drew doesn't end up in the world title match, Drew's another one, kind of like Owens and AJ Styles right now. I'm not sure what else they would be doing at WrestleMania. I would have said 24 hours ago, I would have told you, if he's not wrestling Seth, it would be Drew and Sammy. Well, we just got Drew and Sammy. Do we want to see it again? And even this was not the first time. So I'm not sure what else McIntyre would even be doing. But then again, if he hasn't re-signed his contract, maybe that's the point. Maybe they don't want to put him in something major on the show unless he re-signs. Then that would kind of make sense. But I look ahead to this Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, and I feel bad for the people who paid for this show, thinking that they were going to get some combination of Roman Reigns and CM Punk and Seth Rollins and Gunther and Brock Lesnar. I saw the reports today that Brock was supposed to be eliminated by Dominic Mysterio on Saturday night, and that it would have been Brock and Dominic at the Elimination Chamber. I don't know about that, but all those people are not going to be on the Elimination Chamber show. You'll probably get Cody. you'll get Rhea and maybe Drew and people like that, but that's a lot of big names that the Aussies are paying a lot of money for this show. They want stars. Hey, they're the ones that emailed WWE asking if they could get The Rock to appear. The Rock may have to appear just to make them happy. The Rock's on the board. The Rock is part of the company now, so if they have to call The Rock in to make an appearance, hit a spine buster and a people's elbow on somebody, and then maybe they'll get The Rock on the show. Because it don't look like Roman is going to be defending his title. Anyway, that was Raw. Let's take a look at your poll results here and see what you guys thought of tonight's post-Rumble edition of Raw. 75% thumbs up, 25% thumbs down, with over 1,200 votes in and counting. So go ahead, at Solomonster. What did you think of the post-Rumble edition of Monday Night Raw? That's what I want to know from you guys. I also want to go through your Super Chats, so let's see what you guys have to say. Thank you, as always, for the support. Aaron, by the way, don't think I didn't see those 10 additional memberships you just gifted, brother. You are the man. Thank you very much. Bliss Fan reminds us, yes, the Elimination Chamber here on the East Coast will begin at 5 a.m. It's kind of like our Wrestle Kingdom, although Wrestle Kingdom starts a lot earlier than 5 a.m. Whether I watch it live or not is to be determined. We'll see. Anderson Blitz says those UFC fights cause long-term injury damage. I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if those, what, he had 2 fights, I think, right? They didn't go very long, but he took some punishment. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some lasting damage. Groovy Goose, from a PR standpoint, do you see TKO either rebranding or changing the name of WWE since Vince was such a major part of the company? No. There's no need to change the name of the company. There's no need to change the name of the company. The company had a cancer, the cancer has been cut out, and now you move on. And if there's any other cancer to be cut out, hopefully over time it will come out and they will be gone too. But you don't have to change the name of the company. GMB, being honest, that Bianca Jade stare down was one of my favorite stare downs in wrestling history. That was incredible to watch. Building went wild. The people in the building were going nuts for that. Where are we at on the likes, by the way? 400 was the goal. Somebody update me. We have got Prince Vegeta. Imagine if Punk won the Rumble and then finding out he was injured. How bad that would have looked. The company absolutely made the right choice by having Cody win. Vanilla Gorilla. Punk against Rollins. Battle of the Broken Bodies match at Mania. Somebody earlier suggested an ambulance match between Punk and Rollins. It's sad, but this is the injury situation right now. It's a lot of people who are very beat up right now. 627, holy shit. I guess I undersold that goal. I should have made it 750. Can we get to 750? I don't know. That might be asking a little too much from this group here, right? I don't know. I don't know if you guys have it in you. Zay97, I imagine Raquel was punching the air seeing Jade lift up Nia Jax with ease. Also, what role does Naomi play at WrestleMania, if any? Does she face Jade, maybe? That's a good question. I hadn't really thought about what Naomi's role might be. It won't be in either of the title matches, we know that. You know, could they pair her up with somebody and have her go after the tag titles if Asuka and Kairi were still women's tag team champions? That might be a possibility. Mercedes would normally be the one in that spot because last we saw them, they were tag team partners, they were tag team champions. In a singles situation, I'm not sure. I don't even know that Jade will necessarily be on the WrestleMania card. We're not sure yet. You know, I don't know. I would think that if she is, it might be Jade and Bianca. Yeah, Naomi, Blissfan says Naomi and Bianca maybe teaming up against the Kabuki Warriors. That's possible. I could see that. Prince Vegeta, though, thank you very much. He says in his $9.99 drop here, he says, are they pivoting to Cody and Rollins because of Punk's injury? I know Rollins is Triple H's boy, so is Seth main eventing Mania more important to Triple H than Cody becoming the guy and beating Roman? Triple H does not give a fuck if Seth Rollins main events Mania. Why would he care about that? That's of little concern to him. The concern should be the story that he is trying to tell as the lead visionary on this creative team. He's not going to go, well, we can finish the story that we've been talking about for the past year, but, you know, Seth's my boy. I want to give him a main event. Like, gives a shit. He'll get his fucking main event next year. What? I mean, you're talking about two different things here. Winter's Paw, Triple H, please stop giving Zoe Stark and Shayna TV time. They're boring, they have nothing exciting to offer the show, and nobody cares about them. Well, that image right there is, that might be describing Winter Paw Super Chat. I don't know. All the Zoe fans, though, and the Shayna fans, that's what they're going to think. They're not going to be very happy about that. The Real CSO2. I know it was a one-night thing, but it would be cool if TNA and WWE form some sort of working relationship one can dream. And then Dolph. Poor Nick Nemeth. Poor Nick Nemeth. He'll be like, I was trying to get away from this. I was trying to carve out my own niche. I was trying to do my own thing. Now they're going to have a kind of a Forbidden Door-esque WWE TNA pay-per-view. It'll be a WWE guy. He'd be beating Nemeth. He'll still be doing jobs for fucking Drew McIntyre. Oh, this poor bastard. Can you imagine? Oh, man. Mr. AJ All Day. Hey, thank you for the $22, AJ. Very kind of you. Seth tried, but he cannot make me believe that his title is not anything but a secondary title. Bayley's beatdown is going to be on the level of Evolution beating up Randy without the blood. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you. Kingpin J-Rella says, this is my coin in the pond, my wish. 2-hour Raw in 2025. Thank you. Yeah, your wish and mine, but I think it's wishful thinking is what it is. I think we're getting a 3-hour Raw on Netflix. Donnie Yasu, this week was the Iron Man match for your podcast. Is that why I feel so tired? Paul Carpenter, time for Punk to hit the commentary booth. Well, they could try to get some money out of him at least. I mean, they're paying him. They may as well put him to work. I mean, just because he has a bad wing doesn't mean he can't talk, right? His voice works. His throat is okay. Trey Marquis, here's $5 now. Point to the damn sign. Yeah, but if I point to it, you can't see it. You gotta wait. It's over there. Thank you, Trey. Alex. Hey, brother, what are your thoughts on all of these international pay-per-views that WWE is having? Do you think it increases the wear and tear on the roster? No, I don't think it increases the wear and tear. I think all that international travel can be exhausting. But I don't know that it has. I mean, in the course of an entire year, they're going to have. Let's see. We have Perth. We have France for Backlash. We have the Bash in Berlin. That's 3. Let's say 2 Saudi Arabia shows. That's 5. And let's even throw one more in. That's 6. So if they were to do 6 international shows this year, for an entire year, I don't see that adding much in the way of wear and tear. Now, if they were constantly going on tour overseas, like, every 6 weeks or something, that would be different. But whatever it is, I don't know if it's... Hydrograd, thank you for that. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it has to do with the way they're training or being trained. I don't know. I don't know why we are hearing about so many more injuries over the last couple of months than we have in a very long time. Hey, Pico's Reviews. Thank you for the $9.99, Pico. DEH says, not gonna lie, I teared up. I feel really bad for Punk. The Working Man. Punk's body is failing him. Please retire. That's from The Working Man. Trail Mexican 305, One Bill Phil at this point should just sign up for AARP because he just ain't got it no more. He's washed in the ring. He is done. Well. Nash DTV, McIntyre had me laughing like crazy. I prayed for this and it happened. He is so evil now. I'm telling you, how can you call this guy a tweener? He's a fucking heel. The Jake G. They can redo the summer of Punk with Drew. He wins at WrestleMania. He defends it in TNA over the summer and confronts Punk when he wins the interim title. Oh, no, not the interim title stuff. I don't want to hear about interim titles. That's for Tony Khan. I don't want to hear about interim titles, please. Ryan Hood, is Punk made of glass? Real glass. Hashtag Cry Me a River. Rizzo, as a Lions fan, I'm here just to give you money instead of taking the pain out on my body with fast food. I hate sports. I feel bad for Punk. That's it. Lions broke your buddy Rizzo. I'm sorry to hear that, Rizzo. We have Broken Rizzo. You should change your name now. It's Broken Rizzo. Chris Morin, the 1999. Chris, thank you. It was awesome meeting you before the show at Ferg's. I was the Mets fan in the Mr. Ash shirt. Let's hope Cody and the Mets can finish their stories this year. He had a Mr. Ash shirt. I had a Papa Shango shirt. We were representing the old school. Well, Papa Shango's a little bit older than Mr. Ass. But Chris, it was good to meet you. Met a lot of cool people on Saturday before the show. I only wish I could have met more. But that place was so big. There were some people who literally got lost. We couldn't find each other. I tried to park myself in one spot. And my God, I underestimated how large that place was. It was a lot of fun, though. If you're ever in the area over there, Ferg's Sports Bar. Rizzo, I don't read a lot of dirt sheets, so forgive me if this theory has been brought up, but I think Big E comes back close to Mania and beats Gunther for the belt. Well, I'm happy I'm not the only one who thinks that. I got that vibe tonight, too. I'm not ready to sit here and say for sure, but it was definitely the vibe that I got coming out of that segment tonight when they laid out the New Day. JDF VA. Seth versus Gunther, maybe? Sure. Has to be on the list of possibilities. It would be at the top of my list. Arabian Night 2000 with the 10 spot.
Look at Richie Rich over here dropping all this money on me. Hey, I just want you to know.
Oh boy.
I think you rock. I don't mean the rock, a rock. You rock. And I just wanted you to know that.
Yowie wowie.
Aaron comes through again. It is Aaron with the $100 super chat, combined with the, I think probably by now about 50 or so, probably 40 or 50 gifted memberships. We have a lot of new family members in the chat now, a lot of them thanks to Aaron. Aaron has been on a tear. You know, CM Punk may not be going to WrestleMania. I'm starting to think Aaron may be going to WrestleMania. Aaron, man, thank you. You're blowing me away here. It's unbelievable. But Arabian Night was going to say here, scared that they do Cody and Seth on night one. I think they want Seth to get his main event. He and Gunther, I don't think WWE sees as a main event over Rhea and Becky. I hope I'm wrong. Seth and Drew, title versus career is intriguing. Yeah, I thought so too. Again, that was an idea that Nicholas proposed. Shout out to him. I'd be down for that. But again, they want you to think that Cody and Seth is a possibility. Cody and Seth is not the answer. The answer is Cody and Roman. That's it. That's it. I mean, the match, it's all set up. I mean, it is all set up. It's like you sit down to have dinner, you tuck the napkin into your shirt, you got your fork, you got your knife, they're bringing plates of food out. Everything is lined up. It's like Thanksgiving. You got the turkey in the middle of the table, there's the giblets and the gravy, and you've got the fucking pink shit over there, whatever the hell that is. You know, everything, man. You got everything on the table. The stage is set. You go to dig in, and instead, off to the side over here, you got like chicken tenders for the little kids at the table. And so you go to the chicken tenders, and you have the chicken tenders instead. Why the fuck are you eating the chicken tenders when you have all this adult food in front of you, just set up right in front? I mean, you can pig out right now, have the biggest feast that you've ever had in your life. You reach out to get chicken tenders that you steal from the children at the table. I'm not getting animated about this because this is an experience that I've had before. Eat what's in front of you. It's delicious. It's like filet mignon. You're reaching over for the chicken tenders. I don't understand. River Serenity Verona. River Serenity Verona. Edge at age 46 in 2020 and Christian age 49 in 2022 also tore their triceps. I did not see people telling them to retire or calling them washed. Interesting. They tore their triceps twice? I didn't know that. I thought they only tore it once. They broke their foot too? I didn't know that. Interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know they had back-to-back significant injuries like that. Thank you, though, for the super chat. Brandon Proctor, congrats on 77,000. Brandon, thank you. Thank you very much. Arabian Night, again. Thank you, Arabian Night. River Serenity Verona. Brandon Proctor, coming in hot here on the stream. Nick Grasso. With Punk out, does Seth lose the main event? If so, does Bayley and Io get the night one main event? That's an interesting question. I still think that of the two women's matches, the one that is likeliest to get a main event spot, if a main event spot opens up on that first night, is going to be Rhea and Becky. Bayley and Io, though, has the better story. If you just want to go by story alone, this whole damage control thing has been building up for a while now. Bayley is always the one who kind of gets left out of the conversation when it comes to those women that came out of NXT many years ago. What a story it would be for her to be able to get her first WrestleMania main event and win the women's championship. That's a hard thing to pass up. You know, I mean, as a match, I mean, it's Io Sky. Io Sky's one of the best women's wrestlers in the world, and Bayley, hey, you know, Bayley's no slouch herself. So I don't even know that I could sit here and tell you that Rhea and Becky will definitely be the better match. I can't tell you that. It could very well end up being Bayley and Io. So for the story alone, you may be right. Bayley and Io might have the better story, but I just feel like they may look at it and go, it's Rhea and Becky. And if we're going to do a women's match in the main event spot, how do you vote against Rhea and Becky? You know? Nick Grasso, with Punk out, does Seth lose the main event? Also, if Bayley... Oh, I just read that. I was like, boy, that sounds familiar. Game 20 Forever. Game 20 Forever with the 1999. Wow. What would you think of Punk getting the HBK spot from WrestleMania 13, being on commentary, making quips, shit-talking, and being entertaining, perhaps causing some issues for his first angle back? It's fine with me. I don't have an issue with that. I think that's fine. Sumi B. Fantasy booking. Cody picks Seth. Roman has no challenger. So Aldis says he'll find someone. Everyone thinks it's The Rock until that night, and then we hear the coin flip and out comes Okada. What are your thoughts? I think that you have been fantasy booking a little too much, Sumi. Sumi, it ain't gonna happen. It's a very creative idea, but I don't know what to tell you other than it's not gonna happen. River Serenity Verona. Punk is not enhanced, quote unquote, like Orton and Styles. That may be a reason why his aging body is beginning to fail him. He needs the juice for recovery. Well, I thought traditionally a torn tricep was and again, this is not always the case, but when you hear about torn triceps in sports, that it was typically a steroid-related injury. Not that I'm implying that's why he tore his tricep, but this is the second time now. So, there's something going on here. Again, whether he's not, I don't know, training well enough or overtraining or taking something that is causing this kind of thing to happen, although he's straight edge, so who knows? Who knows? Or it could just be that his aging body is falling apart. Where even on a fluke injury thing where maybe 10 years ago the tricep would not have torn, now it is. And so something that would not have caused a significant injury 10 years ago or even 5 years ago now results in a significant injury. That's the product of age. Some people age faster than others. Some people have been through, their bodies have been through trauma. They've taken bumps over a period of time, and people's, their bodies are different. Their bodies, their recovery time, it's all different depending on who you are. For his sake, I hope that's not the case, that his body has just become so, I don't know, calloused or fragile or whatever over time that this is unfortunately the way it's going to be for him now. It's a big investment that WWE made in him. I'm sure they want to get a return on that investment, so he'll come back. They'll come back and they'll push him again and we'll see what happens. But maybe he wants to consider training a little bit differently, or like I said, DDP yoga. I'm not just pulling that out of my ass here. I mean, there are a lot of wrestlers and a lot of people who swear by it. Might be something for him to look into. Crow Feather Media, wrestling is full of Monday morning quarterbackers and trust me bro journalists, so criticism of Meltzer is warranted. I'm not saying criticism is not warranted. I'm just saying it's funny to me when there are people whose first reaction to anything that he reports is that, oh, it must be bullshit. But then when he does get stuff right, it's not like, oh, well, he got it right this time. It's just like completely ignored. And then the next time he gets something wrong, which he will, it's like, see, I told you, he always gets something wrong. Well, yeah, what about the last thing he got right, though? Right? You have to at least acknowledge that. And they don't do that. That's all I'm saying. Aaron Ruggiero. I say Ruggiero, it's not Ruggiero, it's Aaron. I want to make sure I pronounce this properly. What does that look like? Ruggiero. I think that's right. With the $100 super chat, this is the previous one from 2 hours ago. Says, I first started listening to you on TV tracks during 2011. I'm 24 years old now, and you have been my voice for wrestling since I was a kid. Thank you for keeping my love for this sport alive. You have a fan in me forever, and I can't thank you enough for everything you do. Well, that's amazing. I have a lot of fans who discovered the show from the TV tracks days, so that was a while ago. That was over a decade ago. Well over a decade, so Aaron, I appreciate that very much. I appreciate the love. I'm glad to have you here on the channel, and thank you for all the new memberships, and thank you for all the super chat love. You're awesome. Arabian Night, there's a small silver lining that we delay Punk and Rollins later when they're both 100% from a match quality perspective. It might not be for the world title. It all comes down to Punk's body when he comes back. If this is all just the fluke and he comes back and he's the best shape he's been in years and he's able to stay healthy, we will absolutely get CM Punk and Seth Rollins. If he comes back and he gets hurt right away, he's done. At that point, he's done. One more serious injury like this, if it happens quickly after he comes back, I don't see where he goes from there. But if he can come back and stay healthy, then we're definitely going to get Rollins and Punk. It's only a matter of, is it for a championship or not? And I don't know that it has to be. BComC clearly says Vince criminally liable or just civil suit. Right now, it's just a civil suit. Could it turn into something criminal? It's always possible, but this doesn't seem like the sort of thing that's going to get him arrested or anything like that. She's suing for unspecified damages. I don't know what the dollar amount is. Right now, it's just civil. Doesn't mean that it can't turn into something more. Remember, there was a search warrant, a federal search warrant executed on this man's home last summer. What they were looking for, was it phones or phone records or other things? We don't know. So right now, we don't know what we don't know on that front, but it's only civil for the time being. Holiday 197, so if they do Rollins against Rhodes, this clears up for Roman and Rock, but it would be a better conclusion to Cody's story if he beats Roman. I agree. He doesn't need to beat Roman to finish the story. But I think given the way things went down, it would be the most appropriate outcome. Or the most satisfying, I think. Arabian Night, Edge came back after bad injuries, so can Punk. Well, we'll see. I hope so. Samuel Hayworth, Cody picked Seth. Think it was going to be Punk, Seth, Cody Saturday, Rock Reigns Sunday, with CM somehow healing his way in. Cody won Royal Rumble because Rock is not free yet. I still think it's going to be Cody and Roman. We got Creflo $50. Who's been, look at this, who was that was just fined by Bryan Danielson? Creflo says, Seth is the FUBU champion. I was listening to Alvarez and he said that Braun took Brock's spot and the McAfee spot was supposed to be him and Lesnar standing in the ring with Pat pulling a Drew carry. Well, that's what Pat did. I mean, Pat pulled the Drew carry. It's exactly what Drew Carey did in 2001. I said during my review, as soon as I came home from the stadium, right, what did I say in my review? I said the Braun Breaker spot, or the Braun Breaker, his spot in the Rumble, his entrance, I believe, was meant for Brock. All those people he eliminated, all those people he speared and dominated, that was the Brock spot. Not McAfee's spot. I think the McAfee thing was always planned. So I think that Braun effectively got Brock's spot. Is he going to get his spot against Gunther at WrestleMania? Probably not, but we'll see, right? They're vying for his services right now. We have to wait and see where Brandy ends up on. Could be SmackDown. BComC clearly, would WWE do Rollins against The Rock? Just asking. I don't see it. Why? Why would they do it? I mean, that doesn't do anything for me. Arabian Night, I feel Awesome Truth will win the titles instead of DIY. Could be. Could be very, very, very possible. There's got to be some kind of payoff, right, to R-Truth being a part of this Judgment Day stuff. So how would you end it? Winning the tag titles? I could see that being it. That could be a WrestleMania match. Or Elimination Chamber. That could be an Elimination Chamber match. Tyler Robinson, trade LA Knight to Raw to face Rollins at WrestleMania 40. I'm an LA Knight guy. I like LA Knight, and I would not do that. The Mount Vernon Kid, Christopher Bennett, to quote you, so fuck the record. The problem is there is no record to be fucked. That's kind of my point when I say that. It's the imaginary record. Ali, Okada versus Rollins at WrestleMania 40. Pay up, Booker Man. Zeta. Can you see Chelsea Green being a breakout star this year and potentially winning Money in the Bank? As I sit here right now, as you ask me this question, no, I don't see that. Hydrograd with the $25 Bremo. Judging by tonight and the last couple of weeks, they seem to have abandoned the please welcome my guest at this time backstage intros. Good riddance. Thank God. It was just so tight. Again, you know, they have their formula that they have stuck to for so many years. And it's, look, in the grand scheme, big picture, who cares, right? How they introduce people for backstage segments is not at the top of my list of WWE creative concerns. But it's nice to just change things up a little bit every now and then. Whether it be a camera angle that they're using, whether it be the style of their interviews in the back, whether it be the stars arriving at the building and putting the time in the corner of the screen. I said during the Rumble on Saturday night, something I've never seen them do before. And I looked up at the big screen and they had, periodically they would check in, and in the corner, they would have the top 3 or 4 longest running competitors in the match. So let's say Naomi was in there for 57 minutes, it would show her time, and then below her it would show Bayley's time, and below her it would show Bianca's time. It's a minor thing, but it makes a huge difference. And I could tell you people in my section were commenting on that too, and they appreciated that. Because it just adds some more perspective to what's going on in the ring. Like, oh, okay, wow, she's been in there for a long time, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I think that's great. I hadn't even picked up on it, but I think that's great. Aaron with another $100 Super Chat bomb. I first started listening to you on TV... oh my God, it's the same message. Well, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I am damn happy that you are here with me tonight. Aaron, just know that I appreciate you, brother. You're coming through very strong. Very strong. Especially because I didn't have a chance to do a SmackDown stream on Friday, so this kind of makes up for that a little bit. So thank you very much. Warhawk Rambo is with us in the chat. Also, thanking Aaron. I think he just became a channel member because of Aaron. That might be why. Zay says Nick Nemeth against Braun Breaker at WWE TNA Forbidden Room. We need Braun to get a push. Braun has already beaten Dolph. Like, can we let Nick do his own thing for a while? He's waited for this moment for so long. Let's leave poor Nick alone. Thunder Force. Regarding the Royal Rumble crowd, do you think maybe having 2 Rumble matches in one night is just too much for the crowd to handle? I do think there's a fatigue factor involved there. There's not much you can do. I mean, you got one for the women, you got one for the men. Just like you have one Money in the Bank match for the men, you have one Money in the Bank match for the women. What are you going to do? It's like they have 2 nights of WrestleMania. You're going to cut back to 1? If business ever takes a nosedive where they're not able to move tickets at the rate that they're moving tickets right now, there could come a time where they scale down, which is what New Japan did, and they go from 2 nights to 1. Like, that could happen. But you have 2 Rumbles, and so you have to make it work. I think fatigue from the 2 is definitely a real thing. I say that as somebody who was experiencing some of that on Saturday night myself, watching the show. It is a real thing. Paul Carpenter. Starlight from The Boys, actress, had plastic surgery on her face It's crazy. My point being that a lot of women are doing it, even some WWE stars. Sad. Well, Paul, I hate to break it to you, but there are a lot of women who get plastic surgery. It's not a new concept. Are you talking about any particular kind of plastic surgery? You know, one thing I've never understood is, I mean, I guess men can do it too, I guess, but it's the lip filler. I have never understood that. It just looks so weird. Like with the fish lips, like why would you? Whatever. I'm gonna get myself in trouble now. Justin Konglang. Solo nasty monster with the rant. I love it. Keep it up. Justin, thank you for the $3. We got St. Clair. Went to the Rumble and Raw. It was lit. Loved it. How do you feel about the Tampa Bay area? Plus, I live in St. Pete. Keep up the great work, Solomonster. You know, I had some, we had some fast food last night from, it was one of the only places that was open at 11 o'clock at night. And I'm trying to remember what, oh God, there were two of them. We went through the drive-thru. You would probably know since you live in the area, but now I forgot the name. They have like, you know, shrimp and chicken, and they have a burger, like food like that. Starts with an A. I can't remember the name. It was very good. Some greasy food at 11 o'clock at night. It's been a while since I've done that, but it was very good. I enjoyed my time there. We didn't really have too much time to explore. And the weather was not great on Sunday. But it was nice. It was nice. I'm sorry I missed you. I'm sorry you didn't come out to Ferg's for the meetup. The Mount Vernon kid, Christopher Bennett. Oh, by the way, I should mention this. We went to an area, actually.
Richie Rich over here dropping all this money on me. Hey,
oh my God.
I just want you to know, I think you rock.
He's back.
I don't mean The Rock, A Rock. You rock. And I just wanted you to know that.
No, it was not Applebee's. I know what Applebee's is. Applebee's. Hey, Aaron just came through with another $100 super chat drop here on this stream.
Oh my God, a super chat bomb.
Really?
That's a bigger bomb than the New York Mets.
And that's a pretty big fucking bomb, I will tell you. Aaron, that's for you, and for all of you, you guys just got 10 more gifted members. We're going to have a sea of green in this chat here soon. This is great. I love this. This is fantastic. Aaron, thank you very, very much. If I think of the name of that place, I will, you know what? Give me a second here. Hold on a second. I had the menu open on my phone. I don't know if I can open up my recent history here. If I can, let's see. Can I? It won't let me? Oh, here we go. Salem's. I don't know why I said it starts with an A. It didn't even start with an A. It starts with an S. It's called Salem's. Here it is. Here we go. They got gyros, they got burgers, they got all kinds of shit. So there you go. Salem's was very good. Very popular too. At 11 o'clock at night, we probably were in that line for a while. Anyway, Aaron again, brother. I'm eternally grateful. The Mount Vernon kid, Christopher Bennett. Notice how Samantha Irvin announces Chelsea's name. Yeah, she's always announced it that way, though. For a while, they had her stop doing it. Then people complained, so now she's doing it again. What I was going to say before, though, is yesterday we went to an area, I think it was in Tampa, but it was in an area called Ybor City. We were in Ybor City, and they had chickens and roosters that were just roaming, like randomly roaming in the streets. And like we're just driving and I'm taking pictures. I have video and pictures on my phone of chickens and whatever. So, I mean, it's not funny, but we came to a train crossing and there was an SUV in front of us. We had to stop as the train came by. And evidently, one of the chickens did not get out of the way in time. Yeah. So when the train finally went by, there you saw the pile of feathers on the floor. So anyway, look, I mean, hey, it's as my friend says, it's the circle of life, right? It happens. That's why they say you got to look both ways. The chicken did not look both ways, and unfortunately, he paid the price. That's what happens. So I had some chicken for dinner in his honor. Barry MK400, what is your biggest motivation in life? My biggest motivation in life is to be successful at whatever I do. However I choose to spend my time, whatever it is, whether it be this or anything else, I want to make sure that I do the best job I possibly can and that I am successful at it. It's a challenge for me. I want to feel like I'm not totally wasting my time. There's nothing worse in life than wasting time. We don't get enough time in life, so when you waste it, I hate that shit. So that's what motivates me. Allie says, observe this, brother, say the angry anti-journalists. Bianca Thomas, if Cody could wrestle with a torn pec, then Punk can wrestle with a torn tricep. I don't know if it works that way. Those are two different injuries. I'm no doctor, but I'm not sure it works that way. But thank you, Bianca. Base Beer says HBK's zipline entrance, the best ever. It's up there. I don't know if I would call it the best ever. There have been some pretty badass entrances, especially at WrestleMania. Undertaker entrances are pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, HBK soaring like over the crowd like that. That's got to be up there. Kind of like he was. Alex, with the current roster as talented as ever, what are your thoughts on titles like the Cruiserweight or Hardcore title coming back? I don't want to see the Hardcore title back. The Hardcore title, you bring that back, it's the same garbage Extreme Rules type bullshit that we, occasionally get on TV. It's already been beaten to death in AEW. WWE would just give us a more sanitized PG version of what I can get watching AEW. If I'm into that kind of shit, I'll watch Jon Moxley do it or somebody else do it on AEW. So I have no interest in that. The Hardcore title was fun at that time,
Gunther.
but it was at a different time.
Jerry Lawler loves Gunther the Magnificent. All hail Gunther.
All hail Gunther. Shout out from Buffalo, New York. I believe that was Aaron again. I believe so. Shout out Buffalo, New York. Solomonster is the GOAT. That is from Aaron with a $50 Gunther chat. Aaron is going crazy. Remember Crazy Eddie? Hey, you kids may not remember Crazy Eddie, but Crazy Eddie used to be a thing. I don't know if Crazy Eddie was national or just a New York thing, but Crazy Eddie was this crazy guy who would come on. It was like a commercial, and he was very manic, and he was talking about, all the shit that he was selling, and he ended up going to jail. I forgot for what. Aaron is reminding me, he's like Crazy Eddie tonight. He's going crazy. He's going nuts. I'm going to call him Crazy Aaron. Where's ABK? I don't know. ABK's got some competition, though. I'll tell you that. The Cruiserweight title, just to finish off that question, the Cruiserweight title, no, I don't really have any interest in that either. I think we have just enough titles right now in WWE. Just because we have more people doesn't mean that we need, you know, extra titles. I think you just kind of make the existing titles that you have as sought after as possible. Have people gunning for those titles and just mix it up a little bit more. Rotate your challengers out, do a better job of that. I don't think we need to start adding new titles. Sounds like The Wiz. I'm The Wiz, and nobody beats me, right? Aaron is ABK. Maybe we found out what the A stands for in ABK. How about that? I think we just figured it out. Tyler Robinson. Why not to LA Knight? He's over enough to main event. I just don't think that's the right match to do, especially babyface against babyface. I think it'd be better if you put him in there against Logan Paul, and I think also the promos leading up to the Logan Paul LA Knight match would be better and more entertaining than the promos and segments on TV would be with Rollins and LA Knight. Rollins and LA Knight, would they have a good match? They might have a good match, but I think the destination, like that's the destination. I think the journey to get to that destination would be more entertaining if you did Logan Paul and LA Knight. And then that way Logan Paul loses and LA Knight wins a championship. It's just not the World Heavyweight title, but he becomes the United States champion. I see nothing wrong with that. Aaron with the $100 super chat. Seth versus Drew versus Seth. Seth versus Drew versus Seth at WrestleMania. Well, now I am very curious how you expect them to pull this off. This I need to know. What do you guys think about that? How about we do Seth against Drew? I could barely tolerate the one Seth that we have. You're going to clone him and have a second one? Jose Perez, good morning. Just passing by. Keep up the good work. Good morning. Oh shit, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Forgot, yeah. It is 2:15 in the morning. Jose, thank you. Good morning. Creflo says Arby's. No, it was not Arby's. But thank you. I fucked up. It wasn't an A, it was an S. It's called Salem's. Seth pin Seth. Yes, that's I'll tell you what, if you do Seth and Drew and Seth, Seth's chances of winning just went up exponentially. He probably meant Gunther. I'm assuming he meant Gunther. Seth, Drew, and Gunther. Nah, I mean, we had Drew and Gunther in a triple threat last year. I don't want triple threat. I want one-on-one. Pick the two people and do one-on-one. HBKC83, what brand would you put Braun Breaker on? I would put him on SmackDown. Andrade went to Raw. I think Braun could go to SmackDown. Aaron, again, with the Buffalo shout out. Thank you for the love. He says Solomonster is the GOAT. The Carlosis sad about CM Punk, but would like to see Jon Moxley's face when he realizes he needs to fill in and headline WrestleMania. Yes, right. Triple H is going to pick up the phone and call Moxley and say, hey, Mox, he got hurt again. We need you to fill in again for him. The Carlosis, thank you. Chris Mikesell, what's your favorite Austin Rumble win and favorite road to WrestleMania? 2001 Rumble win. And my favorite road to WrestleMania? Ah, man, I don't know. The road to WrestleMania 17 is like the GOAT. It's like the goated WrestleMania.
It's the amazing Gunther.
Speaking of goats.
Jerry Lawler loves Gunther, the Magnificent. All hail Gunther.
I will get to you in a second, Aaron, I promise. And the timing on that. The timing. Yeah, I don't know. Road to WrestleMania. I think the road to 17 was pretty damn good. I think the road to... I'm trying to think of like more recent Manias as opposed to the really older ones. 30 has to be up there. The whole Yes movement, the ups and downs of that, but you know, everything that he had to that character and him, I guess, had to kind of go through to get to that point, and then the big payoff in New Orleans. So I think 30, I would have 30 on the list. Yeah, I don't know. I have to think if there's any more. That's a good question, though. Near says, peace in the Middle East, please. I wish that message would get out there more, but thank you, Near. I hope you are safe. I hope you are well. Jackson Elkins, do we get a new WWE title after Cody beats Roman? You know what I'd love to see? I hosted the Wrestle Rumble contest on Saturday night. The top prize winner in the contest got a custom Cody Rhodes Nightmare Eagle belt. Look it up. Go take a look at that. It's a fucking awesome belt. It's basically a new age version of the Winged Eagle, but on like a white strap, and it's got the Cody Nightmare logo plate like in the middle with the colors and everything. If he came out with that belt, that'd be a sick belt. That would be a sick belt. And Aaron with another $50 drop, correcting his earlier mistake here. Says, I meant Seth versus Drew versus Sammy. Well, that makes more sense. That is a, I list that? I think I jotted that down in my notes as a possibility. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that with Sammy's involvement recently with Drew. Seth, Sammy, and Drew. You know, again, I'm more of a singles match guy when it comes to the WrestleMania main event, but that's a triple threat that I think would work. I could go for that. I could go for that. All right. Holy shit. What a night this turned into, huh? 724 likes. Blew away the goal. And so my gift to you here at 2:20 a.m. on the East Coast. Let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
I didn't realize it was so late. My God. You guys have been keeping me busy. You're right, I may never sleep again. I may never sleep again. You know, the worst feeling is when you just don't get sleep and you wake up the next day and you get that headache. You get that pain like right here, like right behind your eyes, almost like a hangover, but you didn't drink. I've had that feeling for about 3 days now. This is not going to help. All right, we begin here. Tag team Be the Booker with Well Done. Timothy Well and Kevin Dunn's son, Steven. There you go. Well done. How I like my steak. It's going to be Well Done taking on Harlem Heat. Love Harlem Heat. I gave him the bell just the other day, but against Well Done, yeah, I'm getting the buzzer on that one. I'm sorry. You get the buzzer. Bye-bye. Try better next time, hopefully. Women's Be the Booker. Here we go. All right. Look at all the ladies here in Be the Booker. We begin with Bianca Belair. That was from her very first WrestleMania title win, WrestleMania 37. There it is. I'm surprised how many people actually, when I say that I like my steak well done, I'm shocked by the number of people who actually believe me. Oh, man. All right, Bianca Belair going to go one-on-one with Beth Phoenix. Ooh. Two very powerful ladies. First time ever match. Arr, look at that image. Arr. That's from when she got angry that time. That's from day one. The day one pay-per-view. All right. So we're 1 for 1. This will be the tiebreaker. We go to men's Be the Booker. And here we go. We begin with the Ocho. Chris Jericho graces us with his presence here in Be the Booker. I can hear the crowd now. I can hear the boos. I think our main event has just been marred. Chris Jericho, one-on-one with Ilya Dragunov. Jericho and Dragunov. It would be hard for Ilya Dragunov to have a bad match, I feel like, with anyone. But in the ring with a veteran like Jericho, he'd probably give Jericho the best match Jericho's had in at least 5 years. That's the kind of special performer that Ilya Dragunov is. He's another one that I don't think it'll be very long before we see him on the main roster. He's the champion right now. There's no need to rush him onto Raw or SmackDown. But at some point this year, I think we will see him on one of those shows. And I hope whatever show it is, when he gets there, it's the same brand that Gunther is on. One day, we will get a Gunther-Ilya Dragunov main roster match. And it will get over every bit as well as it did in NXT. Because those two, there's just a certain chemistry they have when that bell rings and they're working together and they're beating the shit out of each other, man. I mean, those two beat the tar out of each other. It's a lot of fun to watch. What the fuck is an Ocho? That's what Jericho was calling himself. After he won the Ring of Honor world title, I guess maybe 8 world titles that he's won, I guess. I don't know. That's where the Ocho comes from. We got one more super chat here coming in. Looks like Base Beerus going to get the last word with a $13 super chat. Oh, is that the woo-wings? They're a little delayed, but give it a second. It'll come through. Base Beerus says Mania 40, sponsored by Woo-wings. Plaster the... Wait, is it coming through? Plaster the wings on the ring apron, Titantron, turnbuckles, etc. Sound Off's next sponsor is Woo-wings. Well, I don't know about that. Base Beerus, thank you very much. Yes, Ocho. Okay, for those who don't know Spanish, Ocho is the number 8 in Spanish. I just assumed everybody knew that, but it's possible that you don't know that. So that's what Ocho means. But as far as why he's calling himself the Ocho, I believe it's because he's won 8 world titles across multiple promotions. Wings on a pole. So again, I will have a review at some point. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow or at some point this week. I'll record a review for the Undertaker One Dead Man show. It's his stage show. He takes it on the road. Usually it's tied into wherever there's a big WWE pay-per-view. He did one in Vegas, not that... There it is. There it is. He did one in Vegas not that long ago, which he said did not go great. Because he brought the Godfather on stage. He had just had hip surgery. He was all, fucked up. And he said, it made for a very interesting night. We had the show in Tampa last night. It was fun. And I'll have my thoughts on that and some of what he talked about. And what he said about Bray Wyatt as well. Talked about Bray. He actually took an audience question about Bray. And a few other things. Hogan as well. So keep your eyes out for that. That'll be going up in the next few days. Aaron, not to be outdone by anybody else, decided to drop one final bomb on me here. And it is coming in at any moment. And he says Sami needs to beat Seth at WrestleMania. See, wouldn't it be more satisfying, though? Wouldn't it be more satisfying if Sami were to take the title from someone like Gunther a year from now? Like, keep building Gunther up, and then Sami, the babyface, kind of goes on this journey to try to work his way up into world title contention, and he beats Gunther in the end. Wouldn't a story like that be more satisfying?
Jerry Lawler loves Gunther the Magnificent. All hail Gunther.
Aaron, thank you for the $50 Gunther bump. But that's how I feel about it. I feel like, man, the eventual match between Gunther and Sami, and you put the World Heavyweight Championship on the line, right? Gunther laughing at this guy, mocking him. You'll never be a world champion. And then Sami finally he beats him, and he wins the World Heavyweight title. What a great moment that would be. Near says, can you send this to Aaron? He needs some change. Near is trying to send his $1.50 here to Aaron, who is clearly in need of some spare change here. Aaron, I hope you'll join me on Wednesday. I'm going to be back here for the final January stream. We're going to be talking AEW Dynamite, so we'll break up the WWE monotony here for one night. We'll talk AEW. That's Wednesday, then live again Friday night for the post-Royal Rumble SmackDown stream. Keep an eye out for the Undertaker One Dead Man review. A lot of other content that has gone up on the channel from Tampa that I went live for and did when I was down in Florida, including my thoughts on the Vince McMahon situation the day after the news broke. My full Royal Rumble post-show review live from Tampa is up as well. If you want my Rumble thoughts. And somebody asked before about my thoughts on the Triple H response at the press conference the other day. I did not record anything on that, but I did post a tweet with my full thoughts on that. So if you are curious what my perspective is on that whole situation, you can go back a few days. It's up on my Twitter right now. I posted one long post, just putting my thoughts together, and that's where you can find it. So that's it. That's all I got. Look, it's 2:30 in the morning. You guys have stuck with me this long. Thank you very much. I will see you back here on Wednesday night. Holy shit, Aaron, with one last $5 super chat, says, I'll be back for AEW. That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to... And even though it's AEW, the sign will still be here. The sign is going to be up until WrestleMania. So I will leave the sign there. We will point to it occasionally when need be, or maybe I'll blow it up and set it on fire. I haven't decided yet. But Aaron, thank you for the $5. I'll see you guys back here on Wednesday night. Until then, thank you for the love. I'll see you there.